can't believe you're doing this to me, Jaime. Please, I beg you, we're just starting and you're the expert here.
It's not actually because of you, but because of me. I never want to see him again. Are you serious?
As campaign intensified for the upcoming general election, what does all this mean for you, the voter? What do the candidates have to offer? How prepared are agencies charged with the election process? Join John Kuria and Safina Chieng on Kenya Decides. This and every Tuesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 as we unpack elections 2022 with a panel of various stakeholders. Make informed electoral decisions.
Good morning. It's a new week. It's Monday. We are glad that you're up and early to join us on Good Morning Kenya here on KBC Channel 1. It's 27th day of June 2022 with just 42 days to the polls. Politicians are now running up and down, making sure that they fix all the loose ends as we near the polling day. That is happening while also WRC ended yesterday in Naivasha with a lot of, talks about Naivasha. But for people who went to have fun, I hope they had fun, as well as business people in that particular area, and even those people who also traveled across our borders to watch that particular event in Naivasha. It was a fun-filled weekend. That was happening again. There was an accident at the Mlolongo exit on Friday night. And I don't know what you can say about this, Doreen, because it seems that most people are taking this express highway for a racetrack, not an express highway as it is. Doreen, good morning.
Good morning and happy Monday. It's actually very cold, by the way, so I hope you're keeping warm as well as our viewers. But I mean, just to respond to that, Victor, in respect to that expressway, as it turns out, even the conversations around looks like the driver was sort of high on something, because if you watch and rewatch that video, it just wasn't normal. Plus, it was around the toll station. So clearly, when you get to that point, you need to wait for you, to submit your card or whichever mode of payment you are using so that you can be allowed to pass through. And again, also what people I think maybe would not be aware is that any of those things that you get to destroy, in fact, there's a wholesome amount that you need to pay. It runs out between 1.6 to 1.9. So I think also these are the things that people are not really aware. They just perhaps thought that this would be like any other form of accident, whereby you just, cause an accident or you get an accident, then that's it. But it's really quite pricey.
Yeah, it was horrific.
Yeah, it was. I mean, and one person died.
Exactly. Actually, the owner of the vehicle that caused that accident, it said that perished at that scene. Anyway, let's be careful. Anyway, take it away, Doreen. Good morning once again.
Yeah, let's be careful. I mean, when you watch it, you actually sasa huyu alikuwa anaenda wapi? At this high speed. But anyway, beautiful morning. As Victor is saying there, keep safe, stay safe, and also keep warm. In fact, the weatherman has now announced that in the next few days, areas of Nairobi as well as different other parts of the country will be experiencing the cold that you're seeing. This has been announced, so try as much as you can to just keep warm. But even at that, we are still here to ensure that we bring you up to speed with what has been happening in Kenya and even beyond. And on the roads this morning, our focus will be on what is happening along Jogoo Road, clearly one of those very, very busy roads. So this morning, we track the traffic flow around that area. In addition to that, we shall also be looking at perhaps different alternatives that we could be used in terms of energy. I mean, with the upward trend that the cost of fuel has been, much as we know the president assented to load the supplementary budget, which is inclusive of the fuel subsidy, which was allocated around 49 billion. But talk around town is that next month, as EPRA will be reviewing prices, there's a possibility of having the price of super petrol together with the various other commodities hiking. Right now, I know it's retailing at 159. So this is what we shall be exploring this morning. Could there be other alternative sources of energy that we might be needing to explore? In addition to that, we also look at what the government is currently rolling out in terms of Universal Children Benefit Program. What is this all about? What is it aimed at? And what is its purpose? That will be your focus on our different interactive segments. So stay put up until 10 a.m. Many thanks for making time. I'm Doreen Orange Okelo. Ray.
Good morning. Thank you for making time. As you've heard from my colleagues, indeed, we value your feedback. You can get us on our various social media platforms. Given that we are streaming on those particular platforms, you can get us on KBC Channel 1 on YouTube. And thank you for making time. And our Twitter handle is also open at KBC Channel 1. Mine is at Ray Manyara. Being the 27th of June, it's just less than 72 hours for Kenyans who have not filed their tax returns to do so. Just a quick reminder that you need to do so, the deadline being June 30th. Away from matters filing your taxes, so to speak, how do you understand or how do you perceive inflation? How do you understand or perceive inflation? Can 100 shillings buy you goods worth for your breakfast? Let's do bread, milk, and an egg to have a balanced kind of breakfast. Can it? Can it?
You've only bought the milk.
Not today.
With a few coins left.
So it cannot. Actually, 100 shillings cannot buy you a meal.
Unless you decide to do duvia. And that's the only way out. Majani, sukari na maji, bas.
Alafu nunue mkate.
Mkate weka kando.
Actually,
mkate is 60 bob.
Now, if we were to look at that, because we've been having this conversation trying to, get people to understand where we are when it comes to matters inflation. For instance, a loaf of bread retails on a minimum or an estimate of 60 shillings, right? Milk, 500 ml, around 60 shillings as well. So you're already at 120. Then buy an egg, a single egg.
20 bob.
Either ranging between 13 shillings all the way to 20 bob, given if you are taking the kienyeji, the kienyeji kind. So we are looking on estimate or on average.
In an average of 4 eggs, remember?
Let's just go with a single egg.
Okay.
On average, this comes down to 135 shillings.
Right.
That is if you're not doing sugar, if you're not doing tea leaves or coffee, and you just had to buy that meal. Because there's protein, there are 2 pieces of protein there. There's milk, an egg, and bread. That amounts to 135. And that is the main reason why churches yesterday came together collectively and implored the government to try and stem the runaway high cost of living. Good morning once again. You're watching Good Morning Kenya right here on In the Headlines, where we'll be bringing you up to speed with those stories that have been making headlines in the last 24 hours. Do not go away. Good morning, I'm Regina Manyara, and this is In the Headlines on Good Morning Kenya, KBC Channel 1. Thank you for making time. You can get us on our Twitter handle at KBC Channel 1, and mine is at Ray Manyara. Earlier on, we were just trying to understand, or rather making understand, what inflation is all about. And we're talking about matters of the high cost of living, where yesterday the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops want the government to move with speed to address the the rising cost of living that has seen prices of basic commodities more than double. Archbishop Philip Anyolo of the Nairobi Archdiocese says life is increasingly becoming unbearable for a majority of Kenyans, and the government ought to break the silence. At the same time, the church has challenged those seeking elective posts in the upcoming general election to offer solutions to issues affecting Kenyans.
Empty pockets, empty stomach. These seem to be the cries of many Kenyans. The situation compounded by the rising cost of living that has forced many Kenyans to dig deep into their pockets to meet their basic needs.
Chakula kila mahali imepanda. Ukiangalia bei ya unga kwa saizi imefika shilingi 250 kuingile 230 na hii ina affect kila mtu.
Those in authority to try to leverage and try to reduce the cost of living down. Kwa waheshimiwa hata waangalie pande yetu. Sasa ni mtu unampeleka pale bunge lakini mahali anaenda kukaa huko hawezi shughulika na maisha ya binadamu.
The church adding its voice with the Catholic bishop saying the government should break its silence on the matter.
The increase in the price of the most basic foods and items is hiked to almost double, and yet the government and most of the political aspirants are silent about it. We need to hear solutions and how the new leaders will cushion the poor in this economic crunch.
Archbishop Philip Anyolo of Nairobi Archdiocese, who read a statement by the Catholic bishops during a Sunday Mass, called for urgent interventions to lighten the burden on many Kenyans.
We urge the national government to move with speed to lower the prices of basic commodities like maize flour, maize and beans, cooking fat, kerosene, so that families can afford to meet their basic needs.
The clergy say politicians seeking elective posts have politicized the matter on the hiked price of basic commodities, giving empty promises instead of offering solutions.
We are fed with this false and empty hope that never comes to be a reality. Kenyans need an urgent intervention from the county and the national governments now.
The church has, however, called for peaceful elections, urging the electorate to be wise and elect leaders who will propel development.
I'm sure you have experienced the high cost of living, and just behind the scenes here we were having a conversation in regard that children are breaking from school this week or next week, give or take, and are going to be having a break of around 2 weeks, and parents and guardians are expected to have the children report back to school in less than 2 weeks with some school fees. If you hadn't tightened your belt, then this is a time to do so. We have 42 days to the next general election slated for August 9th, and the Roots Party presidential candidate, Professor George Wajakoya, says if elected to power in the August polls, he'll positively overhaul the country's economic status within 100 days. Professor Wajakoya, who took his presidential campaigns to Western Kenya, maintains that the country has what it takes to be an economic powerhouse in Africa. He was speaking in Kakamega, where the Roots Party presidential candidate says his policy will make Kenyans priority and promised to jail those who have plundered the country's wealth for their own selfish gains.
Constitution tuna change hiyo, tutakuja kuuliza wananchi ni vipengele gani tunataka waondoe. Kipengele kile nitaambia wananchi waoke ya kwanza ni kwamba Waislamu watakuwa na holiday yao siku ya Ijumaa. Waislamu oye! Waislamu Waislamu Seventh Day Adventists mtaendelea hivyo hivyo on Saturday. Wakristo wengine mtaendelea hivyo hivyo on Sunday. Alafu mrasta atakuwa na holiday every day.
Unajua wazee na wana nyinyi ndio mko wengi hapa. Asubuhi bibi aliitisha pesa asubuhi. Anakuambia mafuta imepanda bei. Anakuambia unga imepanda bei. Wamama inakuwa vita, si ndio? Mabwana anasema tunakula pesa yao. Na ni uchumi mbaya. Kwa hivyo tuangalie wewe kama mwananchi wa kawaida, unaumia aje? Kubali maneno ya Roots Party na Wajakoya, si ndio tunawahurumia, si ndio tuko na njia, tuko na solution.
And someone here asked if Warasta will have a holiday every day, what time will they have to make money to make ends meet? quite rhetoric. It is indeed the political season. At the end of the day, you and I as the electorate get to call the shots at the ballot, provided you made it to the IEBC register, given that 22,120,000 and a few hundreds of people are set to take part in the August 9th polls, with 8.8 million being youth aged between 18 and 34. Now it is done and dusted. We're talking about the WRC that took part, or rather that was happening in Nakuru there. Now, Kale Rovanpera charged to his 4th FIA World Rally Championship victory in 6 rounds at the Safari Rally Kenya on Sunday, as Toyota Gazoo Racing Team locked up the top 4 places. Only 6 out of the 12 WRC race cars completed the full rally distance in what proved to be the toughest event of the season by far. President Kenyatta congratulated all the drivers who completed the rally, mentioning Kenyan Maxine Wahome, who won her maiden WRC3 title.
Many will see this. It is an event that is in our blood. But let me also remind you that it is not an event that is in our blood because of our history. But it is also an event that also impacts us economically and positions us globally. An event like this is not just about the drivers and their crews. It is also an event about every single person who is a participant.
Renewable won the Wolf Power stage to claim 5 bonus points in an I-20N. 9-time world champion Sebastian Loeb scored 4 in second in a Ford Puma, with Ogier taking 3 in third. Goose Greensmith secured 2 points in fourth in another Puma, with teammate Adrian Fomox netting 1. Sardinia Rally winner Ot Tanak ran as high as fourth before a transmission issue on Saturday, and a power steering failure forced him out of the Safari Rally Kenya. The best Kenyan was Aman Singh Rai in position 12, while Maxine Wahome finished 15th.
I want to congratulate our very own Maxine Wahome. You have proved that the world of motorsport is not the world of men, but the world of humankind. We congratulate you as a winner.
These extra feelings that I'm now carrying from this event is that Kenya is actually the best organizer for a safari rally at the stage of the WRC. What we have seen so far is a country that breathes, that lives this safari.
Let me go straight to appreciate the WRC promoter and his team for allowing us to work seamlessly to deliver a world-class safari rally. This weekend has actually defined what the safari rally is. It is both the toughest rally in the world, and it is the great Kenyan experience in Africa.
Your Excellency, thank you for all the support you've given us over the years. Thank you for bringing the Safari Rally back. Amaje? Tunafurahi tele sana.
Is Oliver Solberg and Elliot Edmondson. Yes, Oliver, of course, the son of the 2003.
Those were just some of the scenes down at Varsha, as they refer to it as such. Quite a racetrack there that has been termed as difficult. Well, as you say, Kenya is made for more. Now back to the elections. With just 42 days to go, the civil society organizations under the Uchaguzi platform have faulted the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission for scrapping the use of the manual voter register at polling stations. The organizations want IEBC to reconsider the decision and ensure all its work in its system. They are also concerned over IEBC's clearance of some candidates with integrity issues and want the Elections Act of 2011 amended to include a vetting framework with a checklist for use by the electoral body in future.
With slightly over 40 days to the August 9th general election, civil society organizations under the banner of Uchaguzi platform have weighed in on the country's preparedness. The organizations want the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission to reconsider its decision to scrap the use of the manual voter register at polling stations.
We further call upon the Commission in the next simulation exercise to ensure that all systems work so as to inspire confidence in the processes, particularly on the electronic transmission of results.
The organizations are also concerned over voter education and want the government to facilitate IEBC to reach all Kenyans.
For the remaining period before the elections, the resources required to be channeled to voter education through media and specifically radio stations due to their wide network and deep grassroots reach.
Politicians are more active in the public spaces with their agenda than the streamlined voter education that is targeting the voter.
This as they faulted IEBC for clearing individuals who are in breach of Chapter 6 of the Constitution on integrity.
Out of the 214 individuals blacklisted by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission as morally and ethically unfit to hold public office, IEBC barred only 6 candidates who had been convicted without appeals, those who had been impeached from office, those without the required academic qualifications.
The civil society groups have also called for peaceful campaigns and urged members of the public to desist from propagating and sharing unverified information, especially on social media.
The integrity question, Chapter 6 of the Constitution, continues to just mar what we are having as far as matters of elections. We hope that the IEBC is going to ensure that we have a free, fair and transparent process come August 9th. Now let's talk about health with a keen focus on the COVID situation, where the church has called on Kenyans to adhere to the COVID-19 protocols instituted by the Ministry of Health. The clarion call comes amid laxity being displayed by the public on gatherings a week after the Ministry of Health reintroduced new containment measures to curb the surging numbers in the country.
A week after CA's Ministry of Health Mutahi Kagwe reintroduced the mandatory donning of masks in enclosed spaces, places of worship and public service vehicles, Kenyans still have mixed feelings on the monster.
Tumeambiwa turudi kuvaa mask, which is okay with us. We will put on the mask when we are in the crowded places and we continue observing the COVID-19 rules and regulations.
Kuforce mtu juu chanjo ishafanyiwa already, watu tunajua tuko healthy. Chanjo inafanywa kila siku. Tunajua hiyo ndio dawa. Ukishafanyiwa chanjo, hata ukivaa mask, usipovaa ugonjwa haitaingia. Mimi najua hivyo, important ya kupata chanjo.
Wakati tumevaa barakoa, tuliona COVID ikienda chini. Lakini saa hii vile wamesema COVID inapanda, inatakana tuvae barakoa ndio tu prevent wengine na mtu ajiprevent.
Kupata COVID saizi inaanza kuwa ngumu kiasi. Alafu kuna magonjwa kama homa ya kawaida. Hii ilikuwa inaweza kutusaidia tuweze kukosa hiyo kupata, yani kuhepa magonjwa kama homa na vitu ya kawaida.
A spot check by KBC Channel 1 across the country revealed a sorry state in the war, with most advocating for the government to lower the cost of food prices, as hunger is more likely to kill them than COVID-19.
Mefinya Mkenya zaidi, unga iteremshwe na vitu kama hizi. Ama tuamie nchi jirani, kama Tanzania tu.
But the clergy is urging Kenyans not to lay down their guard as we enter into a cold July month, which might upscale the cases of coronavirus.
Ndio maana hata kanisa hatuwezi tukaruhusu mtu kuingia bila mask. Hii mikakati yote ambayo ilikuwa imewekwa na Wizara ya Afya najaribu kufuata kama kanisa Kwa hivyo sisi hatuna mabadiliko. Juu ni ile tu tulianzia, hiyo ndio tunaendelea nayo. Na tungeomba, kwa sababu tunaona huu ni wakati wa baridi umeanza, maanisha kwamba COVID itainuka. Na ikiwa imeinuka, hatuwezi taka watu kuwapoteza watu.
We are working on that, and we already communicated to the members of the church that they wear masks. But because of the normal situation that have been happening, you find so many people have not gotten back to that rhythm. So we have to remind them again and again.
And with the race to the August polls gaining momentum, the clergy is wary of the political class behavior during campaigns, calling on them to be agents of change.
Hivyo nao watu wa siasa wajaribu katika mikutano yao kusimama na watu wafae mask, kwa sababu wanaitana mikutano lakini watu wanaenda hivyo, na hatutaki wa Kenya waadhirike ama wapate shida kama vile walipata bereni.
Nzuri pia na wao wajaribu kuweka mikakati kwa hizo mikutano za uchaguzi, wajaribu kuweka mikakati ambao itafanya watu wasije wakapoteza maisha yao kwa sababu ya
The development comes as 261 people tested positive for the disease from a sample size of 2,697 tested in the last 24 hours. The positivity rate is now at 9.7%. Even as the positivity rate continue increasing in the country, Kenyans are still exhibiting laxity in the war against COVID-19.
We are not out of the woods yet there, and the prerogative, the honors lies with you to continue taking care of yourself, given the statistics they are made public by the Ministry of Health in regard to not just the COVID positivity rate, but also this being the season, the cold season. We expected, influenza, flu, if you like. This is a high season for both. So I'm sure in your conversation, 3 out of 5 people that you have met are either, blowing their nose or even coughing. So we need to take very good care of ourselves and be warm. At the same time, in as far as matters of health are concerned, before we get into the sporting arena, is that alcohol abuse has been reported has increased at an alarming rate among teenagers aged between 15 and 17. And this is according to data from the National Authority for Campaigns Against Drug Abuse, where alcohol and mirror are the most abused drugs among teenagers in Kenya. At a time when we're talking about, closure of some of the schools to just pave way for the next term, as a parent and as a guardian, you need to be very careful where your children are spending their spare time. Now let's delve into the sporting arena, where Kenya Defence Forces men's volleyball team kept alive their hope of playing in the playoffs after trouncing Vihiga County in the 3 straight sets during the Kenya Volleyball Federation, the Men's National League match that was played on Sunday at the Nyayo National Stadium, Nairobi. These and other stories, including handball and basketball results, up next in the Sports Wrap.
KDF won by 3 sets to nil of 29-27, 25-21, 25-12 against Vihiga County to stay in contention for a place in the playoffs. 4 teams will earn slots in the playoff round, where the winner will be decided.
It's now actually a very good expression of how the men's national team played in Rwanda earlier on in the year in January, and they played very well during the African Cup of Nations. And we have new players, we have new teams coming up, and every team is putting their best foot forward. The standards have been very high, and it's a very good indicator for Kenyan volleyball, especially for the future of the national team, the Wafalme Stars.
GSU are the defending champions, having not relinquished the championship since 2017. KDF head coach Elisha Liwa said he is optimistic that his side will sail through with 2 fixtures to go. KDF is scheduled to play Mombasa Prisons and Rift Valley Prisons.
There are around 3 teams we are competing for that top 4. So the issue is, for me, I lost a game that I should have won against Trailblazers. So I'm now depending on Kenya Forest to beat Trailblazers so that I can be back to the top 4. But I must first of all win all the remaining 2 matches.
Elsewhere, former champions Black Mamba recorded their third straight win after beating JKUAT 34-12 in a men's handball league match played at Nyayo National Stadium. Morgan Juma and Martin Nguli top scored for Black Mamba with 6 goals apiece, while Lewis Maraga scored 4 goals for JKUAT.
Our second match was against NCC. We won yesterday. Today we've played against JKUAT. We've also won. That shows that whatever we are doing at our practice place, it's making sense and it's giving the boys encouragement each and every day. And we are planning this season, we're going to take the league.
In other men's league results, Strathmore, who are league hopefuls, narrowly beat Buccaneers 2018. Maxwell Munene and Brian Murangosi scored for the students 4 goals each, while GSU registered a convincing 41-20 win against Young City.
Well, that puts a cap on matters in the headlines. Remember, further details in regard to stories that we have highlighted for you during this broadcast are available on our website. Just to sample but a few of your feedback in regard to the stories that we have aired. We have 60 Liamukuru, who is watching from Rwanda, and this is what he has to say in regard to matters of inflation and the high cost of living. He says, you raise an important topic for sure, how developing countries will resist inflation and consumer pressure. Governments have to implement competitive social systems in all sectors and reduce capitalism, which he says, in quotes, this is a thief's highway. Remember, we welcome your feedback, including where you're watching the particular broadcast from. Our Twitter handle remains at KBC Channel 1. Mine is at Ray Manyara. We take a quick breather. We'll be back with the papers. Do not go away.
Hujapoteza uzuri wako wala heshima yako.
Mbona hauko mwazi na mimi? Amesema nini?
Hajasema chochote, ni yale maneno mimi niliyomtupia. Nina hakika Keta atafikiria mambo yake kichwani na atafanya kitu ambacho sio kizuri.
Wewe na bad story kwisha. Wewe utasikiaje mtu aje nyumbani kwako tunakumchukua Hana?
Don't you even think about that.
Top sports attractions on KBC Channel 1. In July, Kenya Morans face off against the DRC, Egypt and Senegal in the FIBA Basketball World Cup African qualifiers in Alexandria, Egypt from 1st to 3rd of July 2022. Also in July, Kenya plays South Africa in Rugby League test matches in Nairobi with a return fixture set for October. Still in July, watch the World Athletic Championships from 15th to 24th July live from Oregon, USA as Kenyan athletes seek glory. Followed by the 22nd Commonwealth Games from 28th July to 8th August live from Birmingham, England. In August, join our coverage of the World Athletics Under-20 Championships from the 1st to 6th of August 2022 from Cali, Colombia. Then, in November, catch the World Half Marathon Championships on 13th November from Yangzhou, China. Now that's what sets us apart as KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
give it back? You should be grateful I'm not getting the law involved.
What does she want? I don't think you dare follow through on that.
Who are you, miss?
The king is so grateful for what your clan did for us. If you oppose this, he'd never force you to do it.
This fan can affect the weather.
The Jade Dragon fan was Lord Echo's weapon, but a mortal has it.
It's still unclear whatever became of Echo. If you want to know more, you'll be disappointed.
I had the intuition. I knew that I shouldn't have left her alone with Adrian over in that event. No!
Honestly, I'm not here because Cello let me know about your situation, but because Paulina's daughter has been born.
What? I can't believe you're doing this to me, Jaime. Please, I beg you, we're just starting and you're the expert here.
It's not actually because of you, but because of me. I never want to see him again.
Are you serious?
All right, now let's take a look at what we have on our local newspapers here. Let me start with the Daily Nation. On the front page of the Daily Nation, Ruto, Raila to mount parallel vote count. Ruto, Raila to mount parallel vote count. The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission has allowed all interested parties, including political outfits and the media, to run their own tallies of this year's general election at polling stations in a move hailed as great for transparency and accountability, but one which is also fraught with dangers. That is also on the front page here of the Daily Nation. You can take a look at that story in details on page 4. Heg 2, question mark, as Gisheru hearings end, ICC struggles to nail Ruto. Today, the focus now shifts to the prosecution at the International Criminal Court in The Hague as it closes a case that could determine the fate of Deputy President William Ruto, who has been mentioned in hearings as the beneficiary of a bribery scheme to scuttle his case, rather. There you have it. And we have got a beautiful picture here of Finnish duo, Finnish top in muddy, dusty safari rally. That ended yesterday. The two were took top of honors as Toyota Gazoo team rules the tracks of one of the world's toughest rallies. Actually, most of the drivers said that this time around was so tough on them. I think the terrain there, even the local drivers, the likes of Carl Flash, said that the terrain was not so friendly to them. On the second page, mystery in killing of 4 depends as families feud over remains. A dispute erupted at City Mortuary over the remains of Omeka, one of the victims, and it said that mystery surrounding the deaths of 4 friends who were linked to outline fraud last week deepened over the weekend after a dispute erupted at the City Mortuary over the remains of Elijah Omeka, one of the victims there. The bodies of Frank Obegi, Moses Nyachai and Omeka were discovered in Kijabe Forest on June 19th, while that of Fred Obari was found in Magadi a day later. Wanjohi's body was discovered in Kijabe on June 18th. So even the police are still continuing investigations as to what happened. Now, something also related to that, body of Siaya Minor found after 205 days. This is a story of a family who had refused to heed calls to bury banana suckers to represent Okwach's body in a symbolic funeral. This incident rather happened way back last year when the pitmen were excavating a tunnel near Abimbo mines when they stumbled upon Tom Okwach's body yesterday morning. Okwach was one of the 8 men who were trapped when the mines collapsed on December 2nd last year as they were digging a tunnel. So 7 months later, the body was recovered. Much as it happened later on, 205 days later, but the family says that now they are somehow relieved because they are going to give the kin a decent burial. Inside Ruto Raila vote count plan as IBC agrees to parallel voting, IBC has encouraged the political parties, media, civil society and other stakeholders to do their own tabulation. They say that the parties prepare for massive bid to tally vote count amid rigging fears. On this second page here, related to that, Raila will lower the entry grades for trainee teachers from Northeastern. Raila, for 3 days, pitched camp in Northeastern, where he was in Wajir, Garissa and Moyale. Mr. Dinga says that training of more local tutors would help bridge the biting shortage experienced in the region. And finally, Kenya Kwanza, President has abandoned Raila in Mount Kenya. That's according to Deputy President William Ruto. Ruto says that his high cost of living is a result of a handshake that frustrated Big Four agenda. The DP also pitched camp at the coastal region. Let me take a break on that. I'll be back with it later on. Doreen.
Right, we actually start with that story on what happened in Siaya, Bondo, that is 7 months ago. That is a Bimbo gold mine. And this story has also made its way this morning on the People Daily. In fact, the state had halted, or better still had stopped, the search of, that is Tom Okwach in February. But, the residents there together with the other gold miners, they continued with their search, and at least it's a reprieve for the family because they were able to find the body. And now, as it turns out, the family will be able to give their kin the burial that he so deserves. So it's good news for the family there. This is after 7 months of search of the gold miner, that is Tom Okwach. Now, away from that to some bit of politics now. As it turns out, Azimio la Umoja, One Kenya coalition party, now has up until Thursday to persuade its weak candidate to step down in favor of the stronger one in what is being termed the zoning. That party has employed this mechanism particularly to its strongest area in which they're going to pick the stronger candidates, and this is supposed to give them a chance of trouncing other opponents for various seats, particularly for those in the National Assembly, the Senate, as well as governorship. In fact, even as we speak of governorship as it stands, the current Kitui governor, who is Charity Ngilu, who was also eyeing for that seat for the second time, already stepped down for Julius Malombe, who was also eyeing that particular seat. Now, so as again, it continues to turn out that the coalition now has been working with pollsters to determine popularity of candidates in the various opinion polls that they have been carrying. And so whatever the polls show in terms of who is stronger compared to the other one, that is now what the party will be employing, that the one who's weaker is supposed to step down for the one that is stronger, and they have up until Thursday this week to do that. So even as we speak about up until Thursday as the time in which they have to do that, with just 42 days to the polls, the poll agency, that is IBC, still defends its digital register use, says that it has tamper-proof. This is even as the IBC continues to say that they are not in any way going to employ the manual system, which is what the various political leaders in the different political divides has been employing IBC to just consider to use the manual register, given the fact that with technology, anything can happen and it might just fail. But IBC says that it has various mechanisms to ensure that even if the biometrics fail, they still have various mechanisms And key among them is the alphanumeric form of system, which basically means instead of using your biometric or the fingerprints, you present your copy of ID or passport, and those details are the ones that are going to be used to identify, which is quite interesting because in 2017, IBC was actually championing for the manual register as an alternative. So right now what it just turns out is that it doesn't really quite sit well with the various political leaders to just see the change of heart that IBC has employed there, knowing again fully well it is actually a preserve within the Electoral
electoral laws that the IBC needs to use a complementary mechanism in place of what they're going to use. So in essence, it means that if they're going to use a digital register, then it means that they need to have a complementary mechanism, which in this case could just be the manual register, and which they have said that they're not going to use that, because according to them is that the manual register is when it's used, it actually opens itself for manipulation, which is not what they're up for. So they still defend the digital register as the way in which they're going to identify voters come August 9th. Now, to what is happening on the roads, clearly also you have that story which talked a bit about earlier in the morning in respect to what happened just this past weekend along the expressway, where 1 killed, 5 injured in Nairobi expressway crash. And so just as it turns out, as it was mentioned by the government spokesperson, that is Cyrus Oguna, he said that actually as it turns out is that accidents on the roads, including the expressway, have been on the rise, much as this particular route was just opened recently, and also says that the crashes are attributed largely to drivers ignoring speed limits. And so this is one of the reasons as to why there have been numerous accidents on the roads and also the expressway. Now, still sticking with the expressway, after it was opened up to the public, there were conversations surrounding whether or not motorists would be using this particular route, given the fact that they were expected to pay toll fee, which is not what a good number of Kenyans wanted. But the recent report shows that public transport commuters are actually warming up to the use of this multi-billion shilling Nairobi expressway, and they are willing to pay the toll fee, much as this is not what they really wanted from the beginning. But this is even, as they say, just going by what one motorist said, that is Mburu. He says that you find that matatus using the expressway fill up faster than those using the old road. He says it actually takes him 10 minutes to Syokimau, unlike the old Mombasa road, where he can spend up to an hour or even more because of the traffic jam. So clearly, as it turns out, motorists and even those using the public service vehicles are roaming up to the new expressway. Pray.
Now, being the 27th of June 2022, you can bet that with 42 days to go to the election, our scribes have captured, where we at in as far as the political scene is concerned, with a myriad of questions being raised, especially to the integrity questions there, with the civil society taking issue with IEBC allowing persons with questionable integrity issues to continue running for elective seats ahead of the August 9th polls. That's the main read in this particular issue of the Standard, where vetting of candidates turned out to be a big circus, leaving Kenya at the risk of populating vital institutions with tainted individuals, and the consequences could hurt the country unless voters act. At the end of the day, it is you and I to determine who is going to be leading us in their various capacities. This is what the civil society has to say in regard to the vetting system, and they have given recommendations going forward, that they have a blueprint or a framework that is going to guide IEBC going forward in regard to who qualifies and what are the parameters there to do away with ambiguity. Now, talking about matters of security and the use of the expressway highway there, given what we saw over the weekend, there were 1% succumbed after that grisly accident here. There's an article that has, other than 1 person killed, scores injured at the expressway accident. There's a question that has been posed by this particular daily, and the question is why women cause fewer road accidents than women. Care to hear what the persons who took part in this particular survey had to say? Let's start off with Florence Amara, who is an insurance agent. She said that lack of concentration for men, and they mostly go beyond the set speed limit, unlike women. Men are always overconfident. On the other hand, Moses Brian Otieno, who is a Joakali artisan, said men, even on the road, are over-courageous, overzealous, and sadly not keen enough. They are in most cases absent-minded and distracted easily by the surrounding, even while driving. What is your take in regard to that? Remember, this is just a question that has been put out here by this particular daily, just borrowing heavily from what we saw over the weekend in regard to the accident that took place in on the expressway there. Further on matters of national statistics when it comes to fatalities on the roads is that zebra crossings, the safe paths that have now turned into death traps. On a spot check across city roads, it revealed that out of every 10 zebra crossings, 8 have faded, and Kura blames contractors of using low quality paint which fades quickly. I have a question to pose to both Doreen and Victor this morning. The use of zebra crossings as well as flyovers. We have these structures there to use, but I find ourselves more careless or reckless on the road. I don't know what you have to say with the experience on the road. Victor, let's start off with you. Are we using these facilities as we should, or are we still taking chances?
To a larger extent, I think Nairobians are getting it right, to a larger extent. But it's driving in Nairobi, so to speak, is like going to war. Everyone is in a hurry, you attack, you ambush. And you know, if we don't take care of these small but major traffic rules, that's where we all go wrong. Because you find a situation where a pedestrian is at the zebra crossing, but a driver is actually at the zebra crossing. So the question is, who is right? We all know who is right, but now who is right at that point? We don't. We just have to go back to the basics. That reminds me of the same story that you've just read, why most women, are keen on the road. I think I don't know what about you, because you are also a cruiser, Regina. The last time I checked you
by whose standards?
You're also a cruiser. But women are more keen, the way they are taught in class, have your steering held at this particular point, 2:45, this and that. That's exactly what they'll do. Find a Morio. You are doing 140, one hand on phone, another one here. You get to what I'm saying? And it's normal. Anytime there's an emergency, mtoto anapita, a zebra, a donkey, or what, and you're doing 120, 130, 140, we all know what would happen. Twende bana, kanyaga hiyo kitu. It's insane.
I think it's testosterone when it comes to men, especially.
Tufike haraka.
Doreen, what do you think in regard to where we are when it comes to road fatalities? We have the statistics there from the NTSA, and now this particular report, given what happened over the weekend, the use of zebra crossing and flyovers, especially within the central business district. I agree with Victor. When you're behind the wheel, it becomes something else, especially within the CBD. I don't know.
It's a different story.
It always happens that when the lights actually go red and you have to stop, you have motorists stopping for the pedestrians to actually use the zebra crossing or cross. But immediately they go green, you still find others. Instead of, obeying the traffic lights, there are now more on the road. And now it becomes of mwenye nguvu mpishe. Doreen.
So they want to cross.
Yes.
I mean, I think just as again Victor said, it's basics. But let me say this, in respect to what he said, that it looks like Kenyans are getting it right, I still don't think so. Because, let me just use this example, like the Outer Ring Road. It actually is the latest road to be expanded in the way it is 8-lane. But even at that, in Nairobi, it still records the highest number of death cases. And even at that, with 11 footbridges on that particular stretch, I'm talking about from... this is the Allsops, what used to be the Allsops roundabout, all the way up until areas of Feather there, because it's actually past Feather up until sections of Mombasa Road. That's where the road begins and terminates at. So throughout this entire stretch, 11 footbridges in existence, the road was expanded, NMT is already in place. That is the motorized transport system, inclusive of pedestrian walkways and cyclist lanes. But you will still see pedestrians wanting to use the highway and the footbridge. Iko tu pale kando. The other day, I think it was sometime last year, whereby it was an entire scene just underneath a footbridge. An accident was caused and 2 people died chini ya footbridge. So I think Kenyans are really so much on a rush and on the go. So in terms of just getting that discipline to use the road as is, bado haijafika. It's not quite there yet. And I don't know who needs to like teach us the basics, or you just learn as you go. I don't know, because we are not there yet in terms of just getting the right discipline for motorists as well as for pedestrians to know when it's your time to go, when it's your time to not, when you need to use the footbridge or not. Unapata mpaka wengine wameharibu barabara so that they can just have a space to pass through. Na bridge iko tu pale juu. Imagine, as in,
so jump
like
through
30-40 meters away from you. And you know what, Regina? You know, accidents do not happen in a span of 5 minutes, seconds. For example, you are at the lights, the traffic lights, and then you see someone hooting behind you, and there is a red light, you know.
And do you want me to jump over? As
exactly.
In, what do you want?
It's counting. You are now at 10 seconds to go. Someone is hooting behind you.
I know.
And this is not an ambulance.
And even at that, these traffic lights, it's like they only apply to only those using the vehicles, because the cyclists. Napitanga too. They just pass through.
Actually, these are boda guys. I think traffic rules, as much as we have them, do not apply, quote unquote, to boda riders, because you'll find this person overtaking from the right, while everyone else is giving way to pedestrians. Bodas do not adhere to that. Then it reminded me one question. We had this feature. While the Ukur Yatani, the CS, National Treasury, when he was reading his budget there, and some of the proposals were to have boda operators get insurance cover for themselves and their pinion drivers, as well as also be registered, to just try and rein in on unscrupulous boda riders. I do not know where we at in regard to that aspect. Second, someone asked me, have you ever seen a Lana, an L on a boda?
No.
Have you ever?
All of them are...
they learn on the job.
They learn on the job.
They're all experts.
Yes, they learn on the job. You today walk in, go to a bike shop, buy a boda, whichever make you'd want, and you're on the road. You're on the road. So I think there's a big gap when it comes to matters of road safety, where boda operators are concerned, and I think this is something that they need to take issue with. We'll be keeping tabs on that, given that it was one of the things that highlighted the budget 2022-2023 under the finance bill, so to speak there, as well as other aspects to just try and rein in on rogue boda operators. We had stories. We have 42 days to go to the August polls, and there's been a lot of question in regard to how will the results be transmitted. Now IEBC finding itself at a crux with some civil society saying that they need to reconsider to have manual registers at the polling station. There's also the question then, and I'd want to pose this to our viewers too. Do you think the media should have independent tallying centers? Do you think that media is okay having individual tallying centers, such that once they get this information, they can televise it to you as we receive it? Well, we are open to this particular communication. It has elicited a lot of debate, with some saying this goes to ensure accountability and transparency, others saying that is not a prerogative of the media. The media is to relay the information. And also we are having political parties saying that they're going to be having their own individual tallying centers, right? Yet IEBC has said it's going to be broadcasting the live results. We'll be keeping tabs on that. Remember, it's just 42 days to the general election. I'm Regina Manyara, and I leave you in the able company of my colleagues for the next aspect when it comes to this particular broadcast. Do have yourself a lovely day ahead.
give it back? You should be grateful I'm not getting the law involved.
What does she want? I don't think you dare follow through on that.
Who are you, miss?
The king is so grateful for what your clan did for us. If you oppose this, he'd never force you to do it.
This fan can affect the weather.
The Jade Dragon fan was Lord Echo's weapon, but a mortal has it.
It's still unclear whatever became of Echo. If you want to know more, you'll be disappointed.
And all we gotta do is hold on. Maybe it's the same. You should be next. Baby, I'm dreaming of. I had the intuition. I knew that I shouldn't have left her alone with Adriano over in that event. No!
Honestly, I'm not here because Cello let me know about your situation, but because Paulina's daughter has been born.
What?
I can't believe you're doing this to me, Jaime. Please, I beg you, we're just starting and you're the expert here.
It's not actually because of you, but because of me. I never want to see him again.
Are you serious?
Globally, macadamia nut accounts for 1% of the nut tree production, with Kenya producing 13% of the world's macadamia nut production. At the River, Machakos County, at the export processing zone, wet macadamia nuts are received from the fields. On arrival, the macadamia nuts are first weighed at the weighing bridge and manually screened for dust, any foreign matter, moldy nuts, undersized nuts, which are then removed.
By manual screening, I mean we use 18mm mesh where we pour the nuts from the gunny bags. Then we use personnel to sort the in-shell nuts. Here we remove the undersize, we remove dust, we remove any foreign matter, and any moldy nuts, we remove it at this point.
From the weighing bridge, the nuts are then transported to the factory, where they are loaded into the dryer for cold blowing for 4 to 5 days using environmental air under temperatures of 35 to 40 degrees Celsius to achieve a target moisture of 10% or below. The nuts are then offloaded from the dryer for washing in chlorinated water. The nuts are then loaded on the dryer for final drying at 48 to 50 degrees Celsius to achieve a target moisture of less than 2% or below.
Not really hot but warm air blowing of 35 to 40 degrees. Here, our target moisture is 10%, whereby now we offload the nuts for washing. Washing, we use chlorinated water, whereby we wash these nuts, then we load them to dryers again for final drying.
After the right moisture levels are achieved, the dried nuts are then offloaded from the dryer to the cracking section.
To where you can see them in plastic bags is because they have already attained a moisture where there is no more mold growth. So the nuts cannot deteriorate from at that point.
Stored in plastic bags, the nuts are then offloaded to the sizing grader, which ensures the sizing of nuts to desired sizes is achieved to ensure efficiency of the cracker.
The sizing grader sizes the nuts into different sizes for efficiency of the cracking. That is to ensure once the nuts are put in the cracker, all the nuts get cracked, or else the minimal which are uncracked are very few.
At the cracking session, the nuts are passed through the pneumatic shell separator.
There is the one which accommodates the particles and the small shells and the particles of the kernel itself. That's why it passes through there, so that it gets separated, so that at the final point, those particles are not present.
Dressed in blue dust coats, in-shell sorters then separate the kernel from shells. It is then that the kernel sorters adorned in white dust coats remove any immature, discolored, damaged or foreign matter. Immediately after the nuts go through the kernel sorters, final inspectors then check for any foreign matter and ensure the kernels are of good quality before grading. At the kernel grading section, sizing of the kernel into various styles takes place, with the 0 being the biggest all the way to style 6, which is the smallest.
The bigger nuts, we call them style 1 to style 0. We come to style 1. We have style 2, which is a blend of the style 1 and 4L. Then we have the style 4S, 1S, that up to the smallest size, which is style 6.
The kernels then go through the metal detector, which checks for any metal fragments in the product.
Metal detection part is for detection of any metal fragments in the product. Here we use 3 test pieces. We have got ferrous test piece, we have got non-ferrous test piece, and we have got stainless steel test piece. After they have passed through the metal detector and they have been accepted by the metal detector,
vacuum packing then takes place, where accepted nuts are weighed into aluminium pouches of 11.34 kilograms. Here, white spot nitrogen gas is then splashed onto the nuts.
We package in aluminium pouches is because the aluminium pouches have been completely tested to ensure that there are no pinholes. So we are quite sure when we pack our product in the aluminium pouches, our product is not likely to lose vacuum.
The vacuum packer is connected to the nitrogen cylinder. Vacuum pouches are then held overnight to check for any loose vacuum.
The ply, being it 5, it ensures that the pouch inside is safe. It won't get damaged on the way as it is on shipment.
Once it is confirmed of the absence of loose vacuum, the pouches are then put into secondary packaging in a corrugated 5-ply carton and sealed, ready for export.
Our customers comprise of China, US, UK, Canada.
Reporting for The Process, I'm Jackie Wambiru.
And welcome back. Now let's take a look at today's happening on politics. Now, with 42 days go to the polls, Kenyans are eagerly waiting to see how that is going to pan out. And yes, on the front page of the Daily Nation, Ruto Raila to mount parallel voting count. Now that has been happening since 1997 when the electoral laws were amended, and even it's been happening. So this time around it's not going to be something new. But how successful will it be this time around, having in mind that IEBC have got that mandate to give us the final tally at the Bomas of Kenya come 9th of, thereabout 10th of August, depending on when the final tally will be announced. So that is the only thing that we want to talk about, and including the general preparedness ahead to the polls. With me in studio, I've got 2 gentlemen, 2 brilliant lawyers in studio. I've got Nojin Kakai, who is an advocate of the High Court, sitting to my right, as well as Kevin Katisia, who is also an advocate of the High Court, and also sitting at the Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka's secretariat. Brilliant minds, gentlemen. Karibuni sana.
Thank you.
What happened? Were you at Naivasha? So to you look tired. Starting with you, Nurdin, you look tired. It happened.
It's been a long weekend, you know.
Naivasha happened.
Yeah.
I saw someone like you.
No, sadly I didn't attend. Yeah, I was preoccupied a little bit.
Right.
But it's been a long weekend, and today is a Monday.
Yeah.
Before I came here, I was busy at the office. But, you know, we still have to build the country at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But we also...
But it was a good move. I think most people had fun in Naivasha in terms of business-wise. This is the second time that the Safari Rally is happening in a span of few months. Kevin, for business people, it was a good time for them to reap.
I think so. Of course, it was a very good weekend for many Kenyans. Some of us were watching online.
Yes.
But those who managed to attend, I think this time around it was far much organized than last time. Last time there was a lot of chaos.
Yeah.
But I think this time around it was so good. And we should be lucky as a country when we are having the World Safari Rally so often.
Yeah.
I think it's a good thing.
It's a good
and
thing.
Of course, it will also enhance the Kenyan economy.
Yeah, you look at Kenya is now the national limelight, global limelight because of that alone. It's a good thing. So, 42 days to go. Let me start with you, Nordin. Is the general feeling in the country? Are we ready to cast our ballot?
I hope everyone is ready because time has come for you to actually decide on who you want to make either your life better, or who you want to hang you. You realize, because you see, choices have consequences at the end of the day. Everybody is seeking political seats, be it for the MCA to the presidential level, and everybody has a certain manifesto they subscribe to. You as a voter, you should by now, if you haven't decided, you still have some time. You still have a month and a week or so for you to decide where you cast your vote. And you see, people forget about the other important seats away from the presidency. There's the MCA, there's a member of parliament, there's a senator, and there's a governor. Those are very important seats. More so an MP and MCA. MCA is always with you on a day-to-day basis, and MP is at the parliament to actually do oversight, right? And you forget that they are so powerful that they can even impeach a president. So you focus...
Actually, yes.
You forget that they are your representatives. If they feel a president is rogue or does not follow the law, they can send him home, him or her. So at the end of the day, you need to don't just focus on the purported two horses, all right? Look at everyone that you're supposed to vote for. Oh, I also forgot, there's the woman rep seat, you realize?
Absolutely, right.
So at the end of the day, you need to have a holistic discussion and realize that for your life to change, a lot of things need to happen. For example, about the MPs, the bills are passed in parliament. Things like the finance bill was passed in parliament, you realize? Which is actually making your life hard. When the tax burden is being raised, the ceiling is being raised, that is part of parliament. So you realize we have to have a serious discussion so that people actually realize that 1 or 2 or 5 minutes you take in that booth will either shape your life better going forward in the next 5 years, or you will open the book of lamentations for the next 5 years on Twitter, on Facebook, ranting every day, while you had the will and the power to actually change and make sure that your life is bettered by those who are going to be in office.
Absolutely. And it seems that most Kenyans have already opened the book of lamentation even before we go to the polls, because they said that bad leaders are elected by good people who do not go to the ballot and choose the good leaders. That reminds me, Kevin, because when you look at even the two front runners, they say that much as you're focusing on me, the way he said, but don't forget about that lady or that gentleman on the ground, member of county assembly, because they're the people who are directly in touch with the locals. Are Kenyans quite aware of what they're going to vote for? Who?
Victor, on the issue of whether Kenyans are aware, yes, they are. But the problem is they are aware of so many people, so they have not even, many of them have not made up their mind on who specifically they will vote for.
Yes.
Or you could have made up your mind to vote for person A, then with the time, you change and think of voting for person B. So I think it's a matter of Kenyans really convinced on who they will vote for. Because, Victor, maybe today you may vote for this person. Maybe after this for 2 days you may change your mind. Something may happen. And on the issue of whether as a country we're prepared for the elections, I think from where I sit, I think we are not. Why? Number one, there are several election appeals still at the courts. Remember, after the IBC Dispute Resolution Committee had the disputes before them, people have appealed at the High Court. Others have gone to the Court of Appeal. So, and of course, before you can exhaust all those mechanisms available to you, it is when IBC can bar you from contesting.
Yes.
And you see now IBC have to print the ballot papers.
But will these appeals bar or derail IBC from meeting their deadlines?
I think they may, Victor, from where I sit. I think they may. Because if, for example, there's a court order barring IBC from printing ballot papers for a specific seat, because maybe there's a dispute, then IBC will have to hold on. But I think generally, from what I heard, is like 15th of July is the last time when IBC can be barred from doing their work, maybe in terms of gazetting, because I think they were supposed to gazette by 25th, if I'm not wrong. But now I think there are several matters in court. And you see, economically speaking, it will not be well if you put a gazette, you print papers, then there's a court order which tells you must include so and so in the ballot paper. So it will not be cost effective.
Right.
And remember, these people will not top up the fee which they were to pay to IBC. So I think there are so many things involved. And if you remember our last discussion, I think some of these things should be done. Maybe we need to amend our Elections Act and do these things way early. Because now if you are doing things for 2 days to the election, ABC has not even started printing ballot papers. Now look at, think of now the...
But I think the case of printing ballot papers is based on the timelines, and of course, as you said, with different appeals happening across the board. But we just hope that there will be no appeal against the presidency. I mean, you can imagine somebody going to the Court of Appeal or to the High Court and say, no, hold, I do not print ballot papers for the presidency. That would throw the whole country into some kind of confusion, Nudin.
But before I finish, sorry for cutting short.
Yes.
The likes of Jimmy Wanjigi, they went to the High Court. The court is yet to make a determination on their appeal.
Yes.
So you never know what may happen after the High Court hears their matter. Because they tried to summon Chebukati, who is the returning officer for presidential election, to the IBC disciplinary committee, dispute resolution committee. But of course the committee said they have no jurisdiction to summon their boss. So he went to High Court. They have not heard of any determination. So it may come anytime. So you can imagine if now they are told you must include Jimmy Wanjigi in the presidential election. You don't know what may happen. So I think we are, as from where I sit, Victor, because of these matters, there are so many unresolved disputes, we are not prepared to go for the election.
All right. Nurdin, at the end of the day, we just hope that things are going to be okay with the 42 days to go and IBC going to meet the deadlines. But in terms of security, going back to 2007, they said that from the findings and the investigations, the chaos that rocked this country was spontaneous. It started months even before the election, and the tension was building, it was simmering, that by the time we were heading to the polls and after the disputed poll, it all erupted. But this time around, it seems that everything is calm and the government is quite firm on security issue.
That's because as well, the political players know for a fact that obviously the big brother, the big brother is the international community, is watching. And they saw what happened to the president and deputy who are arraigned in court. And I'm pretty sure that if anyone goes to that court again today, will not come back. They know that because our case was kind of bundled. That is what the ICC say, that witnesses disappeared and what have you, and some recanted their statements. So at the end of the day, there is that fear. And also we've heard the Minister for Interior saying that the government is ready, security is there, and they will make sure that there will be peace and people will vote and go back to their lives on the 10th, which is an ideal situation. On the matter of being spontaneous, I highly doubt, because you see, these things that happen are planned by politicians. Because those people who woke up today with a machete, where do they get them from? Somebody somewhere was financing that. Someone was if it is a militia, somebody was recruiting it. And that is why you even see things like that keep happening in West Pokot and those things. Because you listen to the security officers, they say these things, in as much as we'd want to stop this cattle rustling and everything else, the leaders are involved in these things. You realize, so our leaders need to wake up and realize that they have a duty so that they avoid such shenanigans. And there's something my brother here just said. He said about how we are so late in doing our things. And that is very true, because IBC says they're waiting for these cases to end. So they wait until the end of June. Then they print the ballot papers in July. An ideal situation would have been, for example, if these things were ready even by today, the ballot papers are out. If you had planned this, if anyone had a dispute, they would have gone to court already.
Yeah.
Because
they would have a turnaround time.
Because these late tactics are what even the politicians are using. For example, as of now, we only have one presidential candidate to the manifesto that people can interrogate. That's an example. The rest are yet to come up with theirs. We hear UD will, by the end of this week, I guess. Roots Party, we are told early July, 1st or 2nd July. That is a very short time for you to actually have a discussion, a discourse with the people. You realize these things need to be out in advance so that, for example, we are meant to have a presidential debate. You need to have, if you're a Kenyan with questions, your questions need to be tabled on that day.
Based on your manifesto.
Based on the manifesto. The same thing as you look at, for example, these members of county assembly, the MPs, the governors. Most of them don't have a manifesto. They hide behind a presidential candidate. And you realize that in as much as you have a candidate, you also have to have things. For example, if you're the governor of Nairobi, there are things you need to talk about or you need to do as a governor. That of course you will align with the manifesto of your presidential candidate, but at the end of the day, you need to have your own image. You get me? And that is what we don't see, because most hide behind the court of whoever is the purported party leader. So I believe we like doing things in the last minute, which is always going to be a concern, and that is what IBC is trying to do. It's crash time, and so they are trying as much as they can to get this thing done and over with. In short, what they want to do, they want to finish their part and throw it to Kenyans.
Yeah.
What they don't realize is that if their part of the journey is flawed, the entire process is wrong. You get me? And they will sit there and say maybe they're not well funded on everything, but at the end of the day, their planning also comes to question, because 5 years you've been in office. What have you been doing at the end of the day? And post 5 years, is there a plan, a future plan for ABC? You get?
Absolutely.
So we have to interrogate such things so that we get to understand what are these teething problems that it faces, and how can it move past these issues. Because at the end of the day, if we will always be doing these things at the last minute, we will always have an issue. You just raised something about the violence. This comes up when people say these things is not going to be free and fair.
Because it all goes down to the IEBC. And you know what, Kevin, much as we say all these things, at the end of the day, now, with 42 days to go, focus now shifts to the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, not even the political players. And it's the way he said, most of the political leaders are hiding behind the big parties, quote unquote. But the common Mwananchi, are they so much aware of your manifesto as a politician and what you're bringing to my constituency? It's all about mtu wetu and the party. It's not about your manifesto as an individual. Are we missing it as a nation?
Yes, Victor, we are missing it as a nation, because even when we listen to these political party leaders, how they are insisting, they are telling the people, you must vote for my party members.
Yes.
All the way from MCA, MP, women representative,
they talk about the 6 piece.
The 6 piece,
right.
Yeah. And of course, you saw the meeting between the Azimio Governing Council, and now they brought up this other issue of zoning. Yeah. So as to counter, you see, they also
made to understand that they have got some roughly 2 days to resolve that issue, 2-3 days to resolve that issue.
Yes, they do. They must resolve it this week.
Yeah.
Because you see, now some people will be forced to step down before the IBC does the printing of the ballot papers. And you see, it is not an easy thing, because as Nordin has said, on the ground, people don't even interrogate the manifesto of that MCA candidate, that MP candidate or senator candidate. All they ask is, which party? If, for example, you come from Nyanza and it is ODM, okay, this is okay. If you come from Kampala and it is Wiper, this is okay. If you come from Central and it is either Jubilee or UDA, people will say, okay. People don't even look at your manifesto.
Exactly.
And my brother said it correctly, that apart from Azimio presidential candidate, no other candidate has given their manifesto to the people. Why are they delaying in doing that? Because, Victor, and that is the unfortunate reality, they know very well Kenyans do not vote based on the manifesto.
Kenyans don't understand what manifesto.
They don't even understand what is the manifesto.
Yeah? Because it seems that most of the politicians are giving their manifesto as a requirement.
Yeah, exactly. And do you know why, Victor? The reason why Kenyans are not so concerned about manifesto is because these political leaders, once they are sent into office, they really implement their manifesto. They really, believe you me, they really implement. And that's why Kenyans are saying, just bring what you have, I take, then you'll do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
Kenyans are so, and that's why I saw a statement by the CS for Interior, Matiang'i, and I agree with him that we may end up with the criminals in the leadership of this country. I agree with him because Kenyans just want to get money from you. Give me, at least I have taken 500 from you, I'll vote for you. Very few Kenyans interrogate a candidate's policies and ideas. And very few Kenyans will actually try to find out whether this person will deliver on their mandate or they will give us good leadership. Very few Kenyans do that. All they care about is let's make sure we give Azimio or Kenya Kwanza enough troops in the parliament or in the county assembly. Yeah, because you see, and this is now the reality of the Kenyan politics, the two topmost political outfits, Azimio and Kenya Kwanza, will actually dictate what happens downwards.
Absolutely.
That is an unfortunate reality.
Right.
Yeah, and of course, somebody like Raila wants to make sure if he becomes president, Kenya Kwanza will not have majority in the parliament so that they don't give him trouble. So, Ruto the same. Ruto will make sure if he becomes president, he has majority in the parliament, so that he has peace, yeah, as he leads this country. So there are so many factors which are playing, and I think it is item. That's why, Victor, I've always been insisting, I wish IBC could take me serious. And I know it is not their duty to go and do civic education. It is not their main duty, but I think somebody somewhere, maybe the civil society, should come up, and these big brothers, my learned friend has mentioned, the international community, if they indeed care about this country, let them do some investment and help in doing some level of civic education to the Kenyans in the grassroots. Because they don't know why they need to put this leader in the seat. They don't know. Yeah. So they need to be made aware that it is not all about 6 Ps. It is about an MCA who will work for me. It is about an MP who will work for me.
The numbers from the county assembly, the Senate, all to the to the national.
Because as a party leader of a party, and if, for example, you want to make sure you have a governor for that particular county, then you will work hard to get majority of the MCAs. Why? Because you'll be able to get a speaker of your choice and also pass the bills which are necessary. And in the event that you don't get the governor, then now the governor will be in your, he or she must do what you want. So I think it is item that as Kenyans, and we know, of course, these are our elected representatives.
Yes.
It is us Kenyans who give them the mandate. And believe you me, it is not easy to impeach a leader who has been elected. It is not easy. Even if you say, I can elect this governor, if he does so, I'll impeach. It is not easy.
It's a political process.
It's a political process.
It's a lot of processes. And of course, lack of voter sensitization and education. Perhaps this will have a ripple effect after, 9th of August, because you would imagine we have got different names. Someone is using a nickname that probably is not even common. Someone is using his original name as it appears on the national ID. And we have got IBC also running around to meet the deadlines. Perhaps you can imagine that confusion that will rock the country after the August 8th poll. Somebody says that, no, this is not the way my name is supposed to appear at the ballot box. This is not my photo, and this and that. Based on that timeline, how will it affect the polls?
Obviously it can, because you see, first and foremost, if you're an aspirant, for example, and you have a nickname that you're using in the ground,
yes,
and that nickname, you see, you haven't sworn an affidavit to that matter, or you haven't done a deed poll, you realize that name can't appear on the ballot. Your official names will appear, and if people know a certain nickname, for example, and they go, let's say for example Raila, you're looking for a Gwambo and you don't find it, so you won't vote, of course. You leave that paper, and at the end of the day, that is -1 vote. Or if you're looking for Ruto Hustler, you won't see it. You get. So at the end of the day, if you're a political player and you want that, it's like, for example, what Waititu did. He added the name Babayao to his name.
Yes.
So and that was tactical when he wanted to become governor. So those who are looking for Babayao, they got Babayao, and Sonko added the word Sonko in his name. That's a deed poll. And at the end of the day, if you don't do that, you will lose votes. Now, there's something about I just said here. You see, the reason why these manifestos come out late, I'll tell you for free. You see, there's a bad saying that was being used back in the States, in America, when they were referring to black people. They were saying that if you want to hide something from a black man, put it in a book. Because there is a notion that black men and women don't read. Do you know you have a constitution that is 10 years old, and we have Kenyans who have never even opened that book? Now imagine the manifesto that we get from these politicians. Most of them, these presidential manifestos, are voluminous. I think the Azimio one is 45 pages. Do you think the Kenyan was time to read 45 pages? And then when these people come on the ground, whatever they tell you is majorly populist. That even doesn't make what is in the manifesto. And see, the challenge is most of these populist declarations, you can't even you can't even question them, because there is no avenue to question these people. Because you are assembled somewhere, you listen, you cheer, vuvuzela, a song is put, you dance, you go home. Tomorrow, another routine in another area. We need to have a discussion where you say something, we question how you're going to achieve that. You get me? He just talked about civic education. That is what people need to understand. That when somebody tells you, for example, an MCA comes and tells you, you know what, I'll build a hospital. You tell him, what is the function of an MCA? Because people don't know the function. So utasikia, I'll bring a road here, I'll build a hospital, a school. That is not their function. They have no money for that. You get? But it is populist, and people will ride with it and get elected. Once they're elected, they can't do that because it's not part of their functions. Then you who voted for that person will vote him out and listen to the next one who will come with other populist ideas. So in short, we need that civic education is very important so that we understand the roles of everyone seeking a certain seat, from the MCA level to the presidency. And then, if this person does not actually do what they promised to do, you have a duty, because it's more or less like employment. You hire and you fire. 5 years is or you can even recall. People forget that you can recall a member of parliament from office. That is because this power they possess is delegated from you. It is your power. You delegate it for them to actually go and represent you. But if you feel person X isn't representing me well, you take him home and put somebody else there. That is why civic education is quite important. And I believe that we need to move towards that so that people can actually understand the power they yield in actually having a voter's card.
Nordin, with all powers vested on me, allow me to take a break on that note. When we come back, we are going to get into more discussion on this issue of the parallel of voting and tallying centers that IBC has now allowed all the civil society and political players to put ahead of the general election. We'll be right back with more.
Give it back? You should be grateful I'm not getting the law involved.
What does she want? I don't think you dare follow through on that.
Who are you, miss?
The king is so grateful for what your clan did for us. If you oppose this, he'd never force you to do it.
This fan can affect the weather.
The Jade Dragon fan was Lord Echo's weapon, but a mortal has it.
It's still unclear whatever became of Echo. If you want to know more, you'll be disappointed.
I
had the intuition. I knew that I shouldn't have left her alone with Adrian over in that event. No!
Honestly, I'm not here because Cello let me know about your situation, but because Paulina's daughter has been born.
What?
I can't believe you're doing this to me, Jaime. Please, I beg you, we're just starting and you're the expert here.
It's not actually because of you, but because of me. I never want to see him again.
Are you serious?
As campaign intensified for the upcoming general election, what does all this mean for you, the voter? What do the candidates have to offer? How prepared are agencies charged with the election process? Join John Curia and Safina Chieng on Kenya Decides. This and every Tuesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 as we unpack elections 2022 with a panel of various stakeholders. Make informed electoral decisions.
Welcome back. Now let's get into the gist of this debate. Now let's talk about the issue of the parallel tallying center that has been given that green light by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. Civil society, political players, as well as the media have that leeway now to form that parallel tallying center ahead of the August general election. Gentlemen, to start with you, Kevin, it came into play from 1997 when the electoral laws were amended, and by and large it has never been successful from all the political players, the civil society and even the media. How sure are we that this time around we can get it right?
Victor, having heard that statement by IEBC,
yes,
giving anybody actually, not just the political parties or the civil society or the media, anybody now have the right to conduct their own tallying of the electoral results. And the issue of success of that process depends on how that particular outfit or individual will conduct the tallying. But on the issue of whether it is the right thing to do, I think I agree with IEBC. Why? We need transparency. People, of course, are saying IEBC is doing that because they believe people have not trust in them. But I think it depends on how you perceive it. To me, it is transparency. Because all along, we know, Victor, if you participate in an electoral process, you have your agent. And of course, you heard the IEBC saying, and it has been the norm, whereby at the polling station, that form, the agent of the candidate will sign on the form, and they are allowed to take a photo of it. So if an agent of presidential candidate X takes a photo of that and sends to the tallying center, and they do that in all polling stations in the country, then of course chances of the process being successful will be very high. But the question on whether it will ensure that we have a smooth tallying of the elections is also another issue. Because, for example, somebody may tamper with the results intentionally just to portray out there that they won, when indeed they had not won. These forms which are being taken photos and sent to the tallying centers may be with the level of IT and technology, people can do anything. So, but of course the IEBC has the final say with regards to tallying of results. You saw in 2017 NASA had their tallying center and they were saying it is in the clouds. I don't know where this time round, where it will be this time round. But of course the issue of having parallel tallying centers, to me it's a good thing, but also the negative part is on now how it may create some indifference between the IBC and the political players. For the media, I don't know. The media, of course, has been conducting this tallying, whereby maybe they rely on the information they get from IBC or their own people on the ground, where they take photos and they transmit it. It's a good thing, Victor, because look at what happened in 2007. 2007, and of course we hear all this issue of the Rakanivi, whereby people don't know how a county, of course that time it was not a county, how a particular region people can vote. There can be more votes than even the number of people in that particular area. So I think it will enable anybody who participates in the election process to be sure. I think IBC is allowing these political players a chance to, if
integrity, it has an integrity issue. So it has to. It's trying to get the support of the masses. So it's telling the media, it's telling the presidential candidates, the civil society, and anyone who wants to tally. He just says something that is very crucial. You see, the votes as per the polling station are final. They can't change. As you sign there, the agents actually, because they authenticate that yes, this is the true position. The moment they sign and they can take the photo, that is that. It's not like back in the day when votes, like in 2007, when they had to be brought all the way to Nairobi. So once they are declared there, even the media can show, for example, the Dagoretti North, this is the tally. So and so has this. That is final. So you wait for the Chebukati to declare. I really hope and pray that those who have intentions to actually have tallying centers are doing it not to try and jeopardize the situation or create a sense where if you lose genuinely, you go out and lie to your people. Because even a member of parliament, you can have your tallying center. You can have it separate. But like we said, it's all about transparency from the IBC. So I hope going down, everybody else would have the same intention, so that you actually give out the true results as they are. Because at the end of the day, we have those who know how to falsify documents in this country. Because you wake up in the morning, you see a letter or statement from a certain political leader, then they put a big fake there, say, this is not me. So we have to avoid such things. And going forward, I believe IBC really needs to clean its image. And they're trying. We hope this works out well, because from there they might actually gain the faith that people actually want, so that they can be able to handle elections and people are satisfied. You know what? This is the true position.
Exactly. Kevin, at the end of the day, everybody, it's now an open field for whoever can to have their own tallying center stationed somewhere else. But IBC have got that sole mandate to declare the final tally. But now what happens where there is a discrepancy? Tallying center A or B and up to Z, the tallying will not be at par. It will not match, so to speak. So what happens next? If candidate A says, I have got 1 million point this and that, candidate C says, I have got this, and IB says the true position of the total tally is this. So what happens? Because I'll be able to take you to court.
Yes.
And argue my case that, okay, you are the one who gave us the mandate to go and have a tallying center station somewhere, and these are my findings. These are my internal tally. You, as the electoral body, this is your tally. In a case of discrepancy, how will this be solved, if at all there will be such a case?
Of course, Victor, we may not avoid such kind of disputes or discrepancies, whereby your results are not tallying with those of IBC.
Right.
I think the first thing to do, you raise an official complaint to the IBC and supporting your complaint. If now IBC does not, because if you raise an official complaint and the IBC considers your complaint and they try to resolve it amicably, then you'll have no reason of going to court. But if you raise a complaint and out they resolve the complaint, the evidence they are giving on whatever transpired is not matching with what you have, or you are not agreeing with it, you have the right to go to court. And believe you me, Victor, this time around, myself and Udin will have a lot of work, because there will be so many electoral disputes. Exactly. There will be so many petitions in the courts. And of course, IBC will be the first respondent in all these matters. So I think IBC's legal team should be fully prepared, because you have seen what has happened before the IBC dispute resolution committees. And to be honest, from where I sit, Victor, because I've participated in many of those disputes, where I was representing several clients, the committee has been very successful. Believe you me. Out of almost 260 something. Yeah, I think there were 260. They are about disputes. Very few will find their way in the High Court. Very few. I think they did a good job. Yeah, and we believe that now after the elections. Of course, the first point of taking your dispute is before IBC again. I think they should have another kind of a committee to resolve those disputes, because I don't know, as per Section 74 of the Elections Act, where this committee has any mandate after the election, because the mandate they normally have is nomination disputes. So I think maybe the law needs to be amended, sort of, so that now we can also have another committee, which will also help reduce the heavy burden of cases before the courts. But as we speak, Victor, because there's no such law, I think now if you have a dispute, you have to go to the courts. Whereby you file your matter in the High Court. If you're not satisfied, go to Court of Appeal until you are satisfied.
Exactly.
So, and the other thing, Victor, which I think is good I mentioned, is that whatever IBC is doing, and the reason why I want to agree with them, is because, you know, as a Kenyan, you should be confident that your vote will count.
Exactly.
Well, Victor, many Kenyans believe that even if I vote for this person, it is already decided, so and so will win. And of course, this whole narrative of deep state, which the Kenya Kwanza team were trying to apply, so that they can, because they know, I'm sure they did their research, and they know Kenyans believe that the state interferes with the electoral process. And I think it has been watered down slowly. And I think it was right of the president to try and avoid active campaigns. As much as we know he is the chair of Azimio, the Umoja Coalition Party, you can see he has tried to stay away. And that's why you saw the Kenya Kwanza team when they were in the coast for the last 3 days. They were even trying to attack the president, saying, you know, you see, now there's no difference between this current government and the Azimio government, because they are saying the chair of Azimio is the sitting president. So of course they are trying to create the narrative that even if you vote this week,
there'll be no difference.
There'll be no difference. So now IBC must create confidence.
Of course, that is a political gimmick. That's
it's a political tactic.
It can fly.
Exactly. But now it is upon the IBC to create confidence with the Kenyans. As a Kenyan, if I go all the way to Sekuru, where I come from, and I cast my vote, will it count? Or I can say, even if I vote, so and so will win, let me just stay wherever I am. So I think there must that level of responsibility by all Kenyans, whereby you voting is your right. I think there are some countries, my little friend, where I think, I don't know whether it's Australia or which country, where it is a crime not to vote. Is it Australia? It is a crime not to vote. If you are above 18, you must get a voter's card.
You must vote and you must vote.
Exactly. In the year 2018, I participated. I was in the observer mission in a country called Azerbaijan, whereby there you must vote. But unfortunately, sometimes it is predetermined. But you must vote. So I think as a country, we must have this kind of behavior, whereby everybody knows voting is my social responsibility to my country. I may not force the parliament to enact laws whereby it is a criminal offense not to vote, but I think it should be within the Kenyans.
I think
IBC
we'll have a separate topic on how the voter can know their right and why one should vote, because at the end of the day some people say that why should I vote? You know, it's a very simple question that someone perhaps may ask him or herself, why should I wake up at 3 a.m. to vote? I will tell you, it feels good. As a voter, I have voted several times. It feels good when you have that ink. You feel like you're a true patriot. You've done your bit, so the rest now remains to the government. But then let me get your voice on that, Udin, in a case of a discrepancy and vis-a-vis cost involved. Of course, we know the political parties probably might have financial muscle to establish such investments, but then the level of trust, cost, and in case of a discrepancy. Take it away.
I believe actually there will be discrepancies. I believe, these political players are full of gimmicks. I can be certain the one who will be declared by Chebukati, the other camp will declare, they'll say that the results are not true, these are the genuine results. Because you see, politicians never agree when they lose, and they never accept. You can even check
by one vote, someone will say
you can even check the nominations, and I really hope and pray that 800,000 or 1 million doesn't come to play, that they have thrown into the citizens about that issue. So I believe, and this you will wait and see, that Chebukati will declare results, but I am sure other results will be somewhere that will be declared by people who don't have the right to declare, whichever party that is. So at the end of the day, the process, the transparency that IBC will show will either help them or actually show that these results are flawed. So if this process is smooth, because you see, this has to be, it's a transition election. So it has to be transparent. It has to be very open. And then the margins have to be serious so that anyone contesting doesn't have a claim to contest. You realize? So even if there are issues that are there, they cannot actually change the gap between you and the winner. That is what is going to help IBC. So that the winner is clear. It's like the 202 elections. It's not that it was 100%. There were discrepancies. But the victory Kibaki had was so hard for you to contest. You realize? That is what IBC needs in this election. So that we actually move away from this issue of violence. Because you realize the political class will always try to whip emotions of their supporters. So I believe what we really need going forward is that people need to wake up on the 9th as a civic duty. You vote for whoever you want to vote for. From there, your duty is over. The issue or narrative of it is stand guard and watch over our votes, that is what brings about chaos. You vote. If your candidate wins, well and good. If they lose, people have to understand that Kenya must go on the 10th of August. Lives have to go on. This issue of prolonging elections and results all the way 1 month, 2 months, 1 year, 3 years, that is why we never work. We need to have an election where we vote on the 9th, people go back to their lives on the 10th, people go back to work, life continues. Whoever has lost, go back, redraft your strategies, go back, plan, come back after 5 years. Because we also don't want a situation where, for this entire Jubilee tenure, it has been like we have a general election every single day, because it has been on constant campaign mode. We need the next government that comes into office, no one should be campaigning, honestly speaking.
Go back to work.
Go back to work. If you have lost, my friend, come back when it's time for you to actually, when IBC declares time for campaigns, because you realize all these political players have been campaigning before the timelines were ready.
Yeah, somebody making fun that in some countries in East Africa, we don't even know who is the deputy president or the prime minister. We don't even know whether they have opposition or not.
So at the end of the day, we need a government that works for the people. So you come into office, after you assume office, you work. Those who have lost, go and plan. Those who have won, it's not a time for you to have bravado and enjoy. You know, some of them forget and go on this crazy adventure where they keep having these homecomings that never end. So 5 years we keep having homecomings, part X, A, B, C, D of the country. you need to get to work, because at the end of the day, people, the economy is ailing and people are hungry. And people need to have their lives sorted. So from the 10th of August, life has to go on.
Okay. My director says that I have 5 minutes. But gentlemen, we'll try to fix this. In case you have got this issue of a wide margin, Katisia, you're all learned friends and you know how this happens. Anything is admissible, whether it's 1 vote, 2 votes, or even 3 votes, so long as you can prove beyond reasonable doubt. But in 2002, the wide margin was so hard to contest. This time around, IEB says that, all right, it's a democratic space, you can enjoy it, you can have your tallying center and what have you. Do you think the political parties and the players are ready for the outcome?
That question, Victor, will be well answered by the political party players, but from where I sit...
But with that open field now open.
Yes. I don't think
it has thrown them into some kind of an imbalance.
Yes. Because no, of course they were expecting IBC to oppose their views of having a parallel tallying center.
Right.
But now IBC said it's okay, you can do it. Yeah. So, and I think I agree with my brother that some of them who lose will not accept that they have lost, and they can try to create their own results to just show that they won. Yeah. Because you remember what happened in 2017. And now, of course, the entire story on how Honorable Raila Odinga went ahead to swear himself as the people's president is because they believed that they won. And looking at Raila and Ruto, to be honest, regardless of what the media or opinion polls say, we don't know, as per now, who will win. We are not sure about that, Victor. Anything can happen. In politics, a day is said to be a very long time. We don't know what may happen. Yeah, we don't know whether your people will go to vote. We don't know whether maybe those who vote will vote for. We don't know, Victor. So I think, and of course, somebody can say, my people voted, or maybe an issue whereby your people go to vote only to find out that their polling station has been changed. They're not supposed to vote there.
Yeah.
So there are so many factors, and many of these political players may not agree. But Victor, if I touch a little bit on the issue of why we have early campaigns, as my brother has said, is because if I want to become a president or an MP, I will not wait until maybe IBC has done clearance, or the electoral disputes have been dealt with, so that I can start campaigning. I will not wait for that. And I think that's why I strongly insist that the Elections Act must be changed. Because imagine if you were in the shoes of Njimi Wanjigi. He has campaigned, or Mwangi wa area, all those other presidential candidates who have campaigned and they have used resources, only to be told by ABC, we cannot clear you. 2 months to the election. What will happen? Or somebody who has been campaigning, who has been waiting to vie, then they are told for 2 days, because there are some who have matters in the court.
Exactly.
And other people are also misusing and abusing the court process so as to make sure that their opponents do not participate, do not campaign.
You think that that clause should be amended to allow political parties or political players to have their documents scrutinized way in advance?
Exactly. Way in advance. If it's nomination, let it be done way in advance. If there are any disputes, let it be done way in advance, so that people can have, for example, Victor, Governor Mike Sonko. He has matters in court. If the High Court says impeachment does not bar somebody from contesting because he has an active appeal, because IBC have been saying, and Victor, I participated in that matter of Sonko, where he has been told he cannot participate because he has been impeached, assuming that the High Court says he should be cleared for 2 days or even that days to the election. That person has not even been campaigning because he doesn't know his fate. So I think it is only fair to all, even to the IBC itself, because even them, they are waiting to hear the determination by High Court before they can make a determination on whether they can print ballot papers for Mombasa or not. So I think that issue of clearance of candidates, in my opinion, should be done way earlier, so that now everybody can have a chance to effectively interrogate the entire process. Because somebody can use this politically and say, you know, my rights as per Article 38 of the Constitution of the political rights have been denied to me. Yeah, and you see, everybody has a right to move to court.
Yes.
So I think for fairness and to ensure that everybody who wants to participate in the electoral process is given the chance to do so, these things must be done in good time. Even to the ABC, I'm sure the kind of pressure they are facing will not enable them to also prepare effectively for the election.
Absolutely.
Yes.
All right. In 5 seconds, in terms of cost to be employed on this one, do you think political parties, it must be an expensive affair?
These parties have money at the end of the day. Because I'm sure the ones who are running for presidency actually have friends or people who have interest in their government who would either want a tender or two who will finance them. And also these members of parliament, governors, senators, whoever is vying will also have to chip in, for example, those who have resources. So at the end of the day, matter of course for the two horses that are perceived as horses, I'm sure they are sorted. Because you cannot mount a presidential campaign unless you have money. So for you to actually decide, and you can see the number of rallies they do. You can have, in a day they have five meetings, and that involves money from the chopper, if it is hiring or owned by them, that is fuel. Because even, you know, we were even told the other day that by Moses Kuria that even supporters are ferried. That also involves money, you know. If you have to ferry them from point X to Y, that is money, and also the buses that ferry them. So it's the sad reality is our politics is an expensive adventure, and that is why those who don't have money but have the goodwill to help the people never get to office. But people forget that person who gives you 500 shillings or a packet of flour, the moment they assume office, they have to recover the money they spent. That is why we are unable to fight corruption, because they spend money to get to an office. Once they get to an office, they have to recover times 5.
Gentlemen,
and that is the sad reality.
Gentlemen, I think that these are discussions that we need to have in future, and most importantly, voter sensitization as we head towards the polls. We have got two brilliant minds, Kevin Katisi, an advocate of the High Court, as well as Nordin Kakai, who's also an advocate of the High Court. Gentlemen, thank you so much, and you as the viewer. But remember, we are taking a break, and when we come back, Doreen Arangi is going to talk about renewable energy and how you can enhance it. Do you practice it? That's a discussion we don't want to miss. Shortly after this break.
I knew that I shouldn't have left her alone with Adriano over in that event. No!
Honestly, I'm not here because Cello let me know about your situation, but because Paulina's daughter has been born.
What?
I can't believe you're doing this to me, Jaime. Please, I beg you, we're just starting and you're the expert here.
It's not actually because of you, but because of me. I never want to see him again.
Are you serious?
Hujapoteza uzuri wako wala heshima yako.
Mbona hauko mwazi na mimi? Amesema nini?
hajasema chochote, ni yale maneno mimi niliyomtupia. Ndio nina hakika Keta atafikiria mambo yake kichwani na atafanya kitu ambacho sio kizuri.
Wewe na bad story kwisha.
Wewe utasikiaje mtu aje nyumbani kwako tuna kumchukua Hana?
Don't you even think about that.
Now, with the cost of fuel on an upward trend, at least for the past 3 months, I mean from 144 to 150, now we are at 159 for a litre of super petrol, with the ongoing conversation that next month when April reviews prices, we might just be seeing that going up. Are we getting at a point whereby we need to explore new forms or other sources of energy with this, again, the high cost of living? This is what we're set to interrogate at this hour with my guest, that is Engineer Paul Simiyu, who is the Director of Sentimental Energy Limited. Karibu sana to the program, Engineer.
Thank you so much, Darren.
All right, let us just broach this conversation from where things got thick, or as I would say, probably where the rain started betting us. I mean, as I said, we moved from 144 to 150. Now we are at 159 in terms of a litre of super petrol. And as at that time, around April, we had so much that was being said. We had the issue of oil marketers hoarding fuel. We had the issue of panic buying. We had the issue of the Russia-Ukraine war. I mean, there was a lot that was really given in terms of reasons as to why we were really experiencing the high cost of fuel. In your own analysis, Engineer, what would you say, has got us to this point?
Doreen, I think the sad reality is indeed there are a lot of international forces that have played a big role in influencing the local cost of electricity and specifically energy, on which oil or petroleum products and specifically diesel is part and parcel of the component for production. We've witnessed recently the Russian-Ukraine war invasion. Which is still ongoing and we don't know when it's going to stop. We have witnessed the changes in production as a result of tension between different countries and all that. But all ourselves internally, we have talked about a change in policy that goes back way in 2018 when the government or the president signed the Energy Act 2019 into a law that has been part of the lobby and discussions from 2004. And with that also came with the changes in the review of pricing of our petroleum products and also the processing of tendering and distribution and purchase of the diesel and petroleum products for this country. And all that, of course, coupled up with the high cost of taxation, we are where we are because of that.
Yeah, sure. In fact, around that same year, we had, members of the National Assembly passing the VAT on fuel, and we'll come to that in a bit. But again, just as you're talking about the reasons as to where we are in terms of the high cost of fuel, I mean, a Kenyan would argue we have the Petroleum Development Levy, whereby for every litre of petrol that you purchase, there's an amount that goes to this levy which is supposed to cushion you at the end of the day. So if that is the case, then again, why are we experiencing high prices if I have what needs to protect me from the high prices at the end of the day?
Sincerely speaking, the petroleum, I mean, the act that allows for that subsidy, which is basically a portion of what we pay at the pump, that's taken back for support as a way of subsidy and cushioning the first increment of the petroleum products, has been shrouded in a lot of secrecy. When it's probably properly implemented, we're supposed to be having a stabilized cost of fuel in the country. We're supposed to have better pump prices. We're supposed to have even an entry through the main lobby, if at all the market forces don't allow. We have a national oil, which is the market player in the government that is supported by staff, to be probably the anchor marketer that can be able to stabilize the prices and all that. But no one really knows how that particular fund works. At the end of the day, we have seen very little benefits, and when the benefits come around, they also come with the production or the presentation of the figures as presented by the EPRA. People we cannot be able to audit, and therefore it's very, very difficult to see how effective that subsidy is working. We are actually probably at the mercy of the government policies and the government machineries, which we cannot be able to properly audit. And that particular lack of proper audit has left the country kind of a little bit exposed, especially towards the benefits of the petroleum fund levy, which is part and parcel of the subsidy program that's supposed to help and stabilize the products. You recently saw about it that even through the entire process, you realize apart from that, probably around 45% of the cost of the petrol products per litre at the pump goes towards taxes. So we really don't know what we are probably doing around that.
So it means that perhaps there needs to be some form of more openness to understand how this works, because I mean, it could be difficult to reconcile the fact that I'm always paying for this and there's an amount that always goes to protect and cushion me, but it sort of like doesn't. So there needs to be some form of openness, even from the state, to just understand how all this works.
We need openness, we need audits, we need evaluations, we need a review, we need probably participation of neutral colleagues or participants who can be able to properly even enhance and add value to this, because the same values have been probably been added or been implemented elsewhere, and you can be able to see probably there's some countries that are enjoying better fuel prices. And for us, which have a protection in terms of the levy fund, we still are having among the highest prices in the region, more than even probably some countries that
more
don't
than
have
Uganda?
Until of late, yes, we have been having higher
Uganda
prices.
Looks to be having quite, their prices are slightly higher than us.
Uganda is getting higher, even Tanzania is slightly higher, and this one probably has come because of purely from the international forces, which is coming from the Ukraine, Russia. But before that, they've been having a lower price before.
All right, makes a lot of sense. Now, even as talk about the subsidy, I mean, just recently the CS Energy, Monica Juma, said that so far with this, in this financial year, they've at least used 67 billion in terms of, the fuel subsidy, and their anticipation is that by the time we end this financial year, by 30th of June, which actually ends in the next 3 days, they're estimated to perhaps would have used a total of around 84 thereabout in terms of fuel subsidy. Just recently, we had the members of the National Assembly were against the 5 billion that had been slated in the Treasury to cater for fuel subsidy the next financial year, and they wanted to increase that to at least by 15 billion. But at least a reprieve for Kenyans, because in the new assented law, the president allocated 49 billion in terms of the fuel subsidy. But even at that, engineer, there's still a lot of conversation surrounding it is time to end fuel subsidy altogether. If that happens to be the case, what will become of you and I? Again, knowing that fully right now, the cost of living, which is also as a result of high cost of fuel prices, is what you're currently grappling and dealing with as a country.
Well,
quite a mouthful.
We are the times are quite uncertain. The actions or decisions taken by the people in power, the people in positions of responsibility to caution Kenyans, are not getting there in good time. Probably they're not getting to be enough. They are not probably the right decisions, because as you mentioned, yes, we have probably a selection of 49 billion signed by the president
for the next financial year.
Next financial year, but we also have very credible communication that the subsidy is going to be scrapped off, and we're going to leave the cost of energy, specifically petroleum products, at the mercy of the value of the market forces. At the same time, we have a program that allows for bulk purchase by different oil marketers through the tendering process, and offloading the same through reselling. I think what we'll be able to see is that we're going to see a little bit of more difficult times for the Kenyans. We're going to see more aggravated cost of living as a result of direct cost of energy, and I think the country or the people, the rest of the people who are actually into the production and management of the country affairs should be able to look at alternative means of energy to try and see whether there is a way of exploring independence of the energy products to try and caution themselves against inflation, hyperinflation, and even erraticity in terms of cost of energy.
You know that message that we should brace ourselves for tougher times. Not a good message, but in essence, it is the reality. And you're saying that it's time for us to explore other forms of energy, and we are getting to that in a bit. But again, also let me pick your mind on the taxes that are imposed on fuel just as a commodity. I mean, there's about, is it 9? If my memory serves me correct. And just recently, as we talked about in 2018, when the parliamentarians passed the 8% VAT on fuel commodity, that even increased, the kind of taxes that are imposed in fuel as a commodity. We have the excise duty, the VAT itself, road maintenance levy. I mean, there's just quite a number of them. So if perhaps this is reduced, or the number of taxes are reduced to perhaps, let's say, maybe 3 or something, or 4 of the sort, might this at least get us in a good place in terms of the prices that we keep experiencing at the pump month in, month out?
That's definitely something to go with it, because as I mentioned, out of currently, for example, the cost of a litre of petrol at 160 shillings or 159, 62 shillings goes towards taxation. Imagine. Right? A direct cost of that, if you did away with 16%, probably going to reduce the taxation to around 35 or 36 shillings. That means we are reprieved by around 15 shillings, and that definitely brings the cost of the same products down by the same margin. And on we go. We're having double taxation. We have a road maintenance levy that comes with it, and we still have VAT, we still have other taxes that are in. So the whole conundrum of taxation is we are levying replicated, I think, revenue generation from the same product, which are supposed not to be. If we streamline that sector in such a way that we have minimum tax allocation on the product and the petroleum products, but also a straight line, or basically make the procurement process of our petroleum products more straightforward, and more important, maybe it's the time we started exploring our own refining of our own products. We have oil, we have a crude oil stored in Mombasa. We have a dead refinery that, if probably instead of putting in 49, 50, 100 billion in terms of fuel subsidies, why don't we invest that money in our own refinery and probably produce our own units around here and be able to consume our own products, and maybe we can be able to see a difference in the cost of energy and cost of petroleum products up in the country.
Well said. Or then why also don't we look at different forms of energy, like the renewable energy?
That's part and parcel of the same. If you start producing and consuming what is your own, right from the petroleum products all the way to other sources of energy, hydro, geothermal, solar, we stand a chance of reducing over-dependence. Of course, when you talk about fuel and petroleum products, we are looking more into the mobility sector. Of course, we are hearing discussions about changing and entry of electrical vehicles. It's very possible to run our mobility sector, which consumes the highest cost of petroleum products in terms of consumption, towards solar and other renewable energy products. In terms of industrial production, we can be able to self-generate our own electricity from the rooftops or our yards of our area through solar. In terms of running our hospitals or malls, we can be able to basically subsidize, if not eliminate, the over-dependence of grid power, which part of it comes as a result of a fuel component from the grid towards self-production, as a result of using our rooftops, as a result of using open spaces in our factories and areas of production towards producing our own electricity, which goes towards our own energy independence, which goes towards our own cost of reduction in our production activities, and maybe getting a better return in terms of our products and our services, and probably reduce cost of living.
Makes a lot of sense. Now let's come to the renewable energy, and as it turns out, the world was aiming to achieve this, what they call the universal energy, by 2030. Kenya was aiming to do that actually by this year, 2022. So I want you to just talk to us about how practical that is, given the fact that we're already in this year as a country. And when you talk about universal energy, what exactly are we talking about?
Well, Darren, universal energy is about energy access to everyone, to basically meet the quality of life and living standards that come as a result of having a good, affordable source of energy to carry out production, to carry out the residential living, to carry out operations of, let's say, health centers, schools, hospitals, industry areas, and all that. It's a case where everyone needs to have access to electricity throughout. And as Kenya, you know, we are standing at around 78% electrification countrywide. We are remaining with around 13%, and part of it is actually somewhere having in geographical areas where grid access is a problem because of
so at least we are somewhere there.
We are somewhere there.
Okay.
And with the current program of COSAP is a program that's funded by World Bank that allows for electrification of under-electrified counties, targeting 14 counties. And the program under that is being run on solar. We're going to do solar programs across schools, hospitals, police stations, borehole pumping across those 14 counties. We call them the marginalized, Turkana, Traveta, Narok, Mombasa, and some areas. We'll be able to probably bring this particular facility to 100%. Tenders have been out from last year. Designs have already been approved, and I think the evaluation process of contractors is running under KPLC. And by the time they're released, we should be able to have attained that particular solution, maybe by the end of next year.
So clearly, from what I'm getting from you is that this is practical. At
in
the
Kenya,
end of the
it's practical. Other countries have achieved it. In Africa, Kenya has made actually tremendous steps, and achieving 76% electrification across the country is something we can be able to commend the government on, especially more than 50% of it has having come for the last, let's say, 7 years. And getting to 100%, especially by, again, recognizing that grid power cannot get infrastructured in every corner of the country, but tapping into the alternative source, which is basically solar, which is going to complete the remaining 13% to 100%, is very much commendable.
Makes sense. Now, speaking of solar engineer, I mean, just from the basic understanding of what renewable energy is, of course, this is from energy from a source that cannot be depleted. And you know, we have various forms of that. There's the hydro, biomass, solar. But anytime we talk about renewable energy, there's just a key focus on solar. What makes solar so peculiar amongst the rest?
I think it's because of the simplicity part of it. As you rightly pointed out, renewable is not basically solar. Hydro is part of renewable energy. Geothermal is part of renewable energy. Biomass, even nuclear electricity, and you know we are exploring all that way. But all of this wind power, all these other renewable forms of energy require massive infrastructure investment, transmission, distribution, support part of it from the point of generation to the point of consumption. When it comes to solar, you produce and consume from your point source. If this institution wanted to run on solar, basically what it requires to offer the roof or the yard where you have a parking lot, put there a couple of panels.
And it's easily accessible.
It's easy, you run it up, that's one. It's everywhere. You have solar here, you have solar in Mombasa, you have solar everywhere. The sun rises and sets up in Kenya from, you know, every day. And every other point where you are within the tropics, within the geographic region of the country, you can be able to generate your own source, your own electricity from solar. And that's because of that availability, because of that cost, which is slightly cheaper in terms of affordability from a cost of energy perspective, in terms of that reliability, and in terms of that, let's say, modulity, where you can do one unit, you can do 100 pieces that can be able to, depending on your need for electricity, you can be able to deploy it up, and makes it much more affordable, much more convenient compared to other forms of forms of renewable energy.
Okay, now that makes sense, because I was wondering, with all the forms that are in existence when it comes to renewable energy, why do we keep just talking about solar so much so? But it's because, as you said, it's easily available, easily accessible. Now, but even at that, as you talk about the uptake of this form of energy as a form of renewable energy, you know, some would say that it's quite expensive in terms of cost, particularly on the installation. In your own experience, talk to us about the cost implication of this form of energy.
Well, Doreen, I think in terms of evaluating the cost of solar, to be specific, we need to look at it from a cost of ownership point of view. In the sense that, yes, purchasing of upfront equipment is sometimes slightly expensive, but that has also been basically been reduced from as high as, let's say, you know, we rate solar in terms of watts or kilowatt peak. Kilowatt is the form of standard form of energy unit, and therefore we sell, or solar modules are bought in terms of unit per kilowatt peak. We have brought down that cost from 10 years ago, that was about 180 shillings per watt peak, to about right now 35 shillings per watt peak. That's about 65% per drop. But also, when you look at the cost of that unit, the units come with a lifetime performance of 25 years guaranteed, and over 40 years in terms of lifespan. And within that 25 or 40 years, which is power guaranteed, you're going to have electricity generated from this unit non-stop. So when you extrapolate or we analyze that cost of right now purchasing a solar unit at 35 shillings per watt and extrapolate it to the point of you having that system generating electricity for you for the next 25 years, 30 years, 40 years, you realize that your cost of energy production by solar is just around 2 or 3 shillings per unit. Compare that to what we are buying from maybe the grid supply, which is between 18 shillings to 25 shillings for the residential. You realize that you are basically saving up to 75% of your cost of energy when you invest in solar. And therefore, we use what we call levelized cost of energy. You invest right now, you look at the lifetime, you look at zero bills, you generate and consume every day, and the consumption of warranty of that performance will be there for the next 25 years guaranteed. Then you realize the cost of investing in solar is very, very cheap.
So then it's good investment at the end of the day.
Big time.
Now, as you sort of like get closer to winding up this conversation, what has been also your experience just working at Centec Limited in terms of the uptake of solar energy?
I want to report or communicate and affirm to you that even for the last, let's say, 5 years, Kenya is among the leading countries in Africa that has actually taken up solar.
So you're slowly embracing this renewable energy.
And the country has actually, rising from the industrial sector all the way to the residential area, we have been able to supply and install over, like for example, we've served over 800 homes using solar. We have served over 7 hospitals. We have served over 15 industrial clients that are actually changing from grid utility reliance to self-independence to solar, and therefore the uptake of solar has been very, very impressive, and it's going to even do more because, as I mentioned, the cost of generating your own electricity from solar is much more cheaper. At around 3 to 4 shillings per unit. We're also looking at the cost of uptake in terms of reliability, and finally, of course, being an environmental friendly alternative, and more important, this also financing, where if you don't have the capacity to get into it right now, we can be able to get in and supply the equipment using the expected savings that you'll be able to use apart away from spending from the grid. You use it up as a way of paying for your equipment ownership. For example, if you're paying 100 shillings per unit on grid supply, you put in solar, you save your electricity cost to 25. That's by you save off 75 shillings. Instead of putting that one out and probably creating a different balance sheet to acquire equipment, we'll take that 75 shillings and probably take around half of it, 30 or 40 shillings, right? Use it up to pay the equipment that we have installed for you to generate the savings and pocket the rest in terms of your savings. So when you talked about taking energy independence, it means taking your control of reducing the balance sheet of having an expense of high cost of energy, using part of the savings that you're using to acquire a new alternative energy and still saving on it at the same time.
So you can clearly confirm that at least the uptake is good enough.
I think we are moving towards the way. As I mentioned, being the leading market in Africa in terms of absorption, being the leading market in terms of entry into the electrical vehicles. You can see the discussions going on. We are moving places, and I think we are working better towards a better independence for Kenyans.
All right, lastly, Engineer, what will be your call to action, particularly to those that still feel it's quite expensive and those that wouldn't even know how to assess the quality of a good panel? What will be your call to action?
Well, as a country, even through EPRA also, there are standards that have come around to try and make sure that people who deal in solar are licensed by having V1, V2 and C1 certification. And therefore, it's important for probably the people who are likely to invest in the alternative energy through solar to vet out the contractors that are approved by the government and standardized. And two, yes, we understand the cost of electricity by solar the equipment cost part of it is a little bit high. But as I mentioned, it's not as high as it's supposed to be if you manage it up on a levelized cost of part. And therefore, yes, it's a little bit expensive, but it's a one-off investment. The moment you invest it right now, you won't have recurrent bills on it for the next 25 years. And then number three, lastly, we said there's a lot of financing subsidies that come with dialing, for example, with Centec and other market suppliers in the country, that if you invest in solar and you don't have that direct upfront cost of getting the equipment, you can be financed, and the process of financing it comes from the expected power savings that you're going to have by basically investing in this affordable but also reliable electricity, because once you have it, there'll be no blackouts, you don't have to pay bills more, and basically you'll be able to have your reduced cost of power coming from the same unit.
Well said. And I mean, currently, right now, the world is going green energy. So why not? Why not move towards?
It's a call.
Yeah.
It's a question to basically explore.
Yeah.
And as also mentioned, of course, information access is very, very important. As Centec, we pride ourselves in not only just giving out the solution for affordability, but before we do that, we actually educate our clients. We go through a whole process of energy audit that helps to make sure that our clients understand why they would like to invest or why they need to invest in the alternative source of energy, to what capacity and to what cost, and providing the same means of costing so that people can access this particular renewable source, alternative source of energy for their cost savings, for their expected reduced cost of production, and maybe reduced cost of energy and living at the same time. Yeah, sure.
Well said. And a good place to end this conversation. That was quite informative. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Doreen.
All right.
And Asante sana for inviting us to KBC.
Asante Pia. I have been speaking to Engineer Paul Simiu, the Director of Sentimental Energy Limited, of course, talking to us about renewable energy and what it means for you and I, given, like I said, the high cost of fuel prices and ultimately the high cost of living, and how we need to start embracing renewable energy. This is where we end this conversation, but we still have so much more continuing after this break. Time for us to talk about Universal Children Benefit Program. Those are the guests that are coming on set just after this break. Stay put.
Top sports attractions on KBC Channel 1. In July, Kenya Morans face off against the DRC, Egypt and Senegal in the FIBA Basketball World Cup African qualifiers in Alexandria, Egypt from 1st to 3rd of July 2022. Also in July, Kenya plays South Africa in Rugby League test matches in Nairobi with a return fixture set for October. Still in July, watch the World Athletic Championships from 15th to 24th July live from Oregon, USA as Kenyan athletes seek glory. Followed by the 22nd Commonwealth Games from 28th July to 8th August live from Birmingham, England. In August, join our coverage of the World Athletics Under-20 Championships from the 1st to 6th of August 2022 from Cali, Colombia. Then, in November, catch the World Half Marathon Championships on 13th November from Yangzhou, China. Now that's what sets us apart as KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
Give it back to me!
Give it back? You should be grateful I'm not getting the law involved.
What does she want? I don't think you dare follow through on that.
Who are you, miss?
The king is so grateful for what your clan did for us. If you oppose this, he'd never force you to do it.
This fan can affect the weather.
A jade dragon fan was Lord Echo's weapon, but a mortal has it.
It's still unclear whatever became of Echo. If you want to know more, you'll be disappointed.
And all we gotta do is hold on. Maybe it's the same. You should be next. Baby, I'm dreaming of you.
6 years ago, life took a turn for Jasmine, not her real name. This is after she gave birth to twins. After bringing the twins home for shaving as culture dictates, no one was ready to receive her.
Mama ndiye alinyoka mama mazo miezi minne. Majina akakataa kaniambia mimi mwenyewe niweke. Hata ndio mimi nikaitako tu ya kimila kama huko kwetu tumezoea twins. Huyu anaitwa Mokwana, huyu anaitwa Mdogo. Mdogo ndiye anaitwa Mdogo.
For many communities, the birth of a child is a blessing. However, in this case, the birth of the firstborn twins was neither celebrated nor welcomed. It was seen as a curse. For Jasmine, this was a devastating time in her life. It is believed in some Luya sub-tribes that the birth of firstborn twins is a curse and one of the babies must be killed or the wife is separated from the husband, as it is feared this will cause premature death to him. Jasmine fought hard to keep both babies alive.
Walikuwa wamefinya mtoto paka hapo pamefura. Wizi mtoto akipumua. Na mimi niliweka nduru paka watu wakaja. Walinichapa. Alinichapa na si eti bwana hakukuwa, alikuwa hapa. Kaniambia usipokubali Kenya wazazi wangu anaamua utakaa.
She recalls how she almost lost her sons, now age 6, due to what she terms retrogressive traditions that do not allow twins to live.
Kuna mtoto mmoja hapo alininyang'anya. Nikafuata mama wamefungia kwa room. Hiyo siku nilipigwa na baba mope, mama mope plus mashemeji zao. Wameninyang'anya mtoto andaka waue, ati kimila ya Waisuha wanaua mtoto. Wanaona venye wanatoka wawili. Huyu wa pili mwenye anafuata ndakana wamuue ndio uishi. Sasa venye nilikataa hiyo kitu ndio jansi kaanza hapo kusumbuliwa.
Jasmine, who still had to live with her husband, was in a dilemma. With time, the children became aware of the obtaining situation.
Watoto washaokopa, wanaenda wanacheza, hata wakitaka kucheza wataenda tuko barabara na matairi. Mama, si wataweza tuwekea sumu. Baba yao akiingia, akifika hapo kwa keti, inatakana kuwa maanza kuchapa watoto.
Protecting her children has become her first duty every day.
Nishaokopa. Kwa shule na upelekanga asubuhi. Wanarudi saa 9. Lakini watanipata tu hapo. Nifanye shughuli zangu mchana, watanipata tu.
According to a section of the Abaluya elders, the tradition is not practiced across all the sub-tribes. The elders say that the practice is considered outdated and other measures have been introduced to counter the practice. However, until herbs are administered to the mother and her children, they are not allowed to interact with others. A concoction of herbs is administered to cleanse the mother and welcome the children into the family. At the same time, the mother to the twins is not allowed to consume any food from the family until she is given traditional herbs to immediately avert the death of one child or one of the parents. In some instances, they perform a rite which involves stealing food from the neighbors. This is the first meal that ought to be served to the mother after the delivery of twins.
Lazima hawatakula chakula cha shamba hiyo mara hiyo ya kwanza. Watatumia kwenda kuchuna mboga kwa shamba ya mtu mwingine. Yaani watumie kama wizi, mwenyewe asijue. Mwenyewe akijua tena itakuwa na kesi fulani.
The mother is then required to breastfeed the babies at the same time. Adding that if one child dies, the other one is not allowed to see the grave and should not be in the compound, since it is believed one can die if she or he sees the grave of the departed one.
Au hata awe mtu mzima, hata sikwa kama mwenzake yuko hapa, hata haona kaburi. Atakaa mbali mpaka wamalize kusika na wafuniko ya kaburi, ndio huyo mtoto akuja kwa boma.
Among the Isuka sub-tribe, the twins are referred to as two children rather than twins. However, in the advent of modern religion, the practice has been termed as outdated and retrogressive, with the community resorting to the use of herbs.
Kuondoa hiyo miko fulani na naweza ishi. Wasipofanya hivyo walikuwa na nia kusema huyo mtoto, hao watoto wakikuwa, lazima mzazi mmoja atakufa.
The elders say the culture of abandoning twins or killing them has no place in present society, adding that in the past, twins or any form of multiple births were regarded a taboo, and one of the babies had to be killed in a ritual meant to appease ancestors.
Katika maofisi ama katika manyumba za kina watu wananyonga watoto makusudi, ni watoto ambao wana mila mbaya ama wamesaliwa kwa upaya, wanaweza uwa jamii yote. Tunaomba serikali ichukue hatua iwezekanavyo, hii familia ijue kwamba sheria inasema nini kuhusu mtoto ambaye amesaliwa. Mambo ya mapacha na kuuawa hatutakubali.
Wasipofanya miko, huenda mtoto mmoja ataaga au huenda mzazi mmoja ataaga. Kwa hivyo lazima wafanye mila.
However, the elders say twins are still considered a curse among some Luhya sub-tribes, but rituals are done in secrecy. Reporting for My Culture, I'm Jackie Wambiru.
Exactly 11 minutes past the top of the hour. Time for our last conversation this Monday morning. And currently, the state is rolling out a pilot program of what is dubbed the Universal Children Benefit Program. So what kind of program is this? How sustainable is it? For how long will it be rolled out? That is what we are set to interrogate right now with my guests. To my immediate right, that is John Gashigi, who is the Director of Social Assistance. Right next to him is Peter Ombasa, Assistant Director, Children Service. Karibu sana, gentlemen.
Thank you.
All right, before we get to the UCB and what it's all about, what it's set to do, let's start from the brand, the mother program, Inua Jamii. Talk to us about that.
Thank you for inviting me in the studio. Inua Jamii is a brand name for the consolidated cash transfer programs in Kenya, whereby we have got 3 cash transfers program. One is called the cash transfer for orphans and vulnerable children, which was started in 2004 as a pilot in 3 districts. That was in Kware, Nairobi, that was Kware, Nyando, and Busia. And it was started as a pilot to check on how the orphans and vulnerable children can be catered for. It's called orphans and vulnerable children because it caters for children who are either double orphans, have lost 2 parents, single orphan or left 1 parent, or vulnerable children. They could be having 2 children, both parents, but they are living in a very, very vulnerable conditions. Like maybe the parents, they are sick, they have HIV/AIDS, maybe they are disabled on other things. So since 2004, the program has expanded, and currently we have got 352,000 households who are enrolled in the program, and they get a cash transfer stipend of 2,000 per month, which is paid after every 2 months. That is 4,000. The second program is called Older Persons Cash Transfer Program, which target the senior citizens who are poor and vulnerable. The program started in 2007 as a pilot. It started in Thika, also Nyando, and also in Busia. So the programs also target those households which are very, very, very poor. And in 2017, the program was expanded to become a universal, targeting all the senior citizens who are 70 years and above. They also get 2,000 per month, 4,000 after every 2 months. The programs covers all the 47 counties, all the 290 constituencies. Currently, we have got 833,000 households who are enrolled in the program. The third program is called Persons with Severe Disability. The reason why it's called Persons with Severe Disability because it targets persons who are severely disabled. They require 24-hour care and support. It started in 2011 as a pilot. Currently, we have 47,000 households who are benefiting from that program, and it's also in all the 47 counties. So the total amount of the total beneficiaries for the 3 programs is 1,233,000 households. And our annual budget for the 3 programs is 29.6 billion Kenya shillings. And it is important to point out here is that all the money which is paid for the Inua Jamii cash transfer is 100% tax financed. We don't spend even a coin from the development partners to pay our cash transfer programs. Thank you.
So all that is financed within the country?
Yes.
And over time it has expanded to various counties to cater for actually even all the 47 counties?
It's true that after the initial pilot for the 3 programs, it expanded to all the 290 constituencies, all the 47 counties. So they are national programs. They cover every section of the country. When it comes now maybe to the payment, the money is paid to the beneficiaries, or where the beneficiaries cannot be able to receive money on their own, like the orphans and children, persons with severe disability, the money is collected by their caregivers. The money is paid through the banks. And as of today, we have contracted 6 banks. That is Kenya Commercial Bank, Cooperative Bank, Equity Bank, Post Bank, then we have got National Bank and Kenya Women Finance Trust. The beneficiaries, they collect money at the branches and also at the agents which are spread all over the country. In some special circumstances, the beneficiaries can also collect the money using the ATMs whereby they have been given the PIN. And also, all those beneficiaries have got bank accounts. Therefore, in the case they feel that they don't want to go to collect the money from the bank, they can also enable their accounts to be mobile enabled, whereby they can be able to access the money using the bank's account. In terms of the identification, we use a 2-factor authentication. We use the ID and then we use the biometrics. And this way, it enables us now to ensure that there is no fraud, because it's only the person whose bios can be recognized can be able to collect the money. But when it comes now to the collection of the money, the program, the government pays for the withdrawals. There are like two free withdrawals and 2 bank statement inquiries, meaning that the beneficiaries, they don't incur any cost when it comes to the withdrawal of the money. And that way we are able now to safeguard, and also we ensure that if beneficiaries are deceased, their money cannot be accessed by anybody else. So we safeguard the government money.
All right, clearly loopholes all sealed.
Yes.
All right, now, before we get to the UCB, Peter, talk to us about KSEP.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate to have come to KBC for the first time. And I'm just building on what my brother has just said. Inua Jamii is a brand and is purely financed by the government. And of course, the government pays for everything. However, innovations come. And in 2017, when we were rolling out the National Safety Net program, we did what we call some kind of needs assessment, where we realized that there's need to have a consolidated way of approach towards the cash transfer, which is one of the arms of the social protection services. Hence, the Kenya Socio-Economic Inclusion Project was conceived at that time, meaning, yes, we are running the programs 100%, but we need then to think post that particular running. Hence, KSEP was born. And of course, it was approved by the World Bank in 27th of November 2018. And of course, it became effective in 20th March 2019, and is expected to end in 31st December 2023. The total amount of money that we are talking about is USD 250 million on one side, but we have a grant of about 66 million Great Britain pounds that comes to the kitty of KSEP. However, it's good to know what are the project objectives of KSEP. Very, very important. KSEP was conceived with the background effect of strengthening delivery systems for enhanced services to the vulnerable community in Kenya. And basically, KSEP is divided into three components. Number one is about strengthening social delivery systems, whereby we talk about the enhanced single registry, among others. The second aspect is increased access to socio-economic inclusion programs. This includes the economic inclusion program. It includes also the niche program, and of course, the NHIF for that matter. And finally, the third component under KSEP is about improving the shock responsiveness social protection. We realize that, of course, COVID has taught us a lesson, but as a country, how prepared are we? When disaster strikes, how prepared are we? No wonder then the project was conceived on those lines, so that it can be able then to respond to shocks when they come. In a nutshell, that is what KSEP is all about.
And all this, and all this is geared towards assisting the vulnerable.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, well said. Now let's come to the Universal Children Benefit Program. This is a pilot program. It's going to be undertaken in 1 year. So far, 6 months are down. Supposed to end in December. But talk to us about this program and what really informed the coming up of this program, its aim and its purpose.
Maybe before my brother jumps in, a small background for us to basically understand why did we come up to this. Ideally, we realize that about 87% of most of our population are basically living in poor conditions. We can say they're earning less than 243 shillings in a day. So looking at that particular situation, we came to think about, do we still want to continue this way, and for how long? We have programs running. Inua Jamii is a brand, good program running.
And a big brand at that.
However then, we need to think, how then can we put our population in such a way that they can be better off? No wonder then we, as a government, together with the development partners, we thought about piloting a new program that is universal for children. And the reason behind this pilot is just to test to see, can universal work better than targeted programs like the brand Inua Jamii? Because under the brand, all beneficiaries are targeted to the program. But universal child benefit runs across the sub-county or location for that matter, and basically it takes everybody at that particular parameters that you have set. For this time, we have set a parameter of between 0 and 3 years. That is 1,000 days. We have reasons towards that, and some of the reasons include nutrition, stunting, and the rest. Therefore, it was just a small historical background so that my brother can also add. And ideally, because it's a pilot, and we don't want to say that we have a lot of money. We want to test and see how can we then effectively roll out to the entire country after we have done a study on how it works. We have 3, of course, the papers have been running into this for the last 1 week. We are piloting in 3 counties of Kajiado, Embu, and Kisumu, and very specific locations. Kajiado has 2 locations, Embu has 4 locations, and Kisumu has 2 locations.
Okay, well said, Peter. Now, I just want you, John, to build up on that, even as Peter mentioned that she has been building up on that. And yes, he's talked about those of ages 0 to 3, of course, that is 36 months and under. Talked about the 3 counties that you chose, that is Kajiado, Kisumu, and Embu. And so as you build up on that, I would like for you to explain to us, particularly in specificity, why the 36 months and under, because I would argue when these children get at age 4, 5, 6, they haven't stopped being vulnerable in one way or the other. And then these 3 counties, why couldn't you have chose counties like maybe Turkana or something? So what really informed the 36 and under, and what informed the 3 specific counties that you're currently doing the pilot?
The reason why we choose these 3 counties is because, number one, they are not part of the KSEP counties. We wanted now to move out of the KSEP counties. So Turkana and Marsabit and others, they are part of the KSEP counties.
All right.
And then number 2, we also wanted to go to those counties which are arid and semi-arid. And that's where we have got high poverty levels, and also the levels of malnutrition are also very high. But the very reason why we are targeting the children who are between 0 and 36 years, it's because this is where the cognitive development of the child starts, the development of the brain. And we feel that if you get it wrong at the beginning, those children will not develop. Their brains are not going to develop. And if their brains are not going to develop, even in the future, they are not going to be very, very bright in school and doing other things. So the aim of the program is, number 1, is to ensure that there's reduced malnutrition at the household level, whereby those children now, they eat well using the money they are given as a top-up. Number 2, we also ensure that those children, they are taken for immunization. And they complete the whole immunization set, meaning that now they are going to be fully developed. And then number 3, we ensure that they also go through the growth monitoring. So they are taken to the hospital, they are checked and all those other things here. And then finally, we ensure that the mothers, they give birth in the recognized health facilities. Once now they do this during now the 1 year when we were doing the piloting, the mothers are normally trained on positive parenting. They are taught on nutrition counseling and financial literacy. So that now they are able now to know how maybe they are able now to bring up these children. And then the top of money they are given is supposed now to ensure that these children now they get a good diet. Once they get a good diet, like they get milk, and then mothers are also encouraged to do exclusive breastfeeding for the first 6 months or so. So that way now the child, they start now developing very well. And that way now we ensure that now these children now they have taken off at the good place, considering that they come from this very poor and vulnerable communities. So that was the reason why we targeted those children. And we are hoping that in the future, even now this pilot succeeds, and then we do an impact evaluation, and we find that it has got good lessons, then now we are going out to expand maybe to more other arid and semi-arid countries. And then maybe finally in the future, the program might go universal. And the reason why we are saying is that for the program for the older persons cash transfer, it is universal. It is covering everybody who is 70 years and above.
Across the country.
Across the country, yes. So our aim also this one is that once now we do this pilot in the 3 counties that succeed, maybe going forward in the future, the program can also be expanded now to be universal. It will cover the whole country, and every time it will be targeting those children who are between 0 and 3 years. And the good beauty of it is that if you target the children who are between 0 and 3 years, after the 1 year is over, those who are 3 years will be 4 years. And then other children who have been born. So now you target now the newborns. And then the ones now who are 4 years, you continue with them. So that maybe in the next maybe 15 years, the program can have targeted all those children who are between 0 and 18 years. So the program is going to expand progressively.
Right.
But that will depend on the resource envelope.
Okay, so there's actually a plan to sort of extend the years, because that was about to be my next question. So what happens to these children once they are removed from the program after they are past 36 months? But as you say, there's a plan to sort of expand that. Again, all this based on the resources that will be available.
Sure.
Okay, makes sense. Peter, you have largely focused on health, education, and nutrition. And one may ask, this could be the pertinent issues that perhaps you spotted, but then why? Because again, there are various other issues to focus on, particularly when you look at those areas that you're targeting, could be perhaps issues to do with shelter, clothing. So why significantly, these 3 issues, health, education, and nutrition?
Thank you so much. And just to complement what my brothers just said, and I want to put it into perspective that data is the one that we rely on, absolutely. And the data that we took from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics tells us that the counties that we chose are the ones that have got larger numbers of children below the age of 3.
Okay.
And very specific locations have more children than the other locations. So we depend on data for programming of any particular program that we want to run off. And secondly, why then did we look at those three aspects, health, nutrition, and socio-economic? Ideally, the basket that any particular person has can only be divided into basically three: food, and of course education and shelter. Now, if you look at the statistics again, they'll tell you the population that are poor. And in any amount of disposable money you have, where will you spend it more? Ideally, you spend it more in education, health, and of course shelter. However, we have programs that are running. There's free primary education, there's school feeding program, and we looked at all those aspects. We are alive to those facts. But even though the locations that we chose still have those, but the statistics don't lie. They still tell us, yes, there's still a challenge here. Can you then do an intervention that in the long run can give us some positive impact that can then sell our idea to not only ourselves, but to the entire Kenyan, so that they can be able to then say, all right, this program can run the time. And that is the reason why we, as a State Department, we say, all right, we are trying this, and then we study the impact. If the impact is positive, then we'll roll it out, although of course in progression to the entire country within the next, maybe before 2030.
All right, makes sense. Now, John, you are disbursing 800 on a monthly basis, is it?
Yes.
800 shillings. Now, it is a good initiative, and we really laud the state, because also, as you mentioned, with the various programs, in fact, there's a specific one that actually the state does it just without, on its own, without necessarily relying from donors and grants, which is a good initiative. I mean, at the end of the day, trying to assist the vulnerable, the orphans, the old, and even right now, the younger children. But with the high cost of living, just in the morning you're asking, what can 100 shillings buy you? So this 800 shillings, how did you arrive at this figure? Again, like I said, knowing fully well that right now the cost of living in our country is really high.
Okay, let me put the record straight.
Okay.
For the UCB, the program is a pilot program, and it is supported by development partners. The money comes from UNICEF and World Food Program. Right. Because UCB is not part of the Inua Jamii cash transfer. So the 800, I think they did some analysis, and they found that this money is a top-up of the already 2,000 shillings which they are getting.
Okay.
So all the beneficiaries of the UCB, they are also beneficiaries of the Inua Jamii cash transfer programs, so those households.
So this is like an addition?
It's an addition, yeah. It's actually a top-up.
Okay.
And the idea of the 8,000, I think, was also dictated by the amount of money which was budgeted now for the pilot for the 1 year. But maybe moving forward, depending on the resource envelope which might be gotten, maybe the money can be put higher. It's also important to note that when this program was started, the current inflation was not envisaged. So there's something which has just come. The cost of the milk, the cost of food, and all those things has gone up. Yes. The other thing is that the reason why we normally do the pilot is because we are also able to gauge the impact of that money they are getting, whether it is impacting positively or negatively. And based on the lessons now, it informs now future programming and progressions. Yeah. So for the planning now, which we are now going to do in the future, it will now be based on the outcome of the impact for the 800. But the 800 is actually up and above the 2,000 which we give. So if we say that we are giving after every 2 months, it will mean that we are giving 1,600 per household, on top of the 4,000 which they are getting. That will amount to be 5,600 per household.
That is in every 2 months?
Yeah.
All right, well said. Let's talk about the mode of payment, because even as it stands, we know that with the various programs, particularly for the older persons, when you speak to a number of them, they will tell you that I received this 2,000 this month, next month sikupata. Next month ingine nimepata, then again after 2 months sijapata. So how are you tracking how these households that you've identified are receiving this money, and which mode of payment are you using? Because it has to be impactful at the end of the day.
Thank you. I want to in two pieces.
Okay.
I will respond to the UCB, and my brother will respond to the brand.
All right.
Allow us to call it the brand because that is our brand.
Okay.
Under UCB, all our money is transferred via Safaricom. So the issue of I didn't get or what does not arise, because statements are always presented to us, and we are able to say, you got it on this date, this time, this was your number, and the name that came was this. So the issue of them trying to refuse does not arise at the moment, at the pilot stage. We wouldn't know, and we wouldn't want to preempt any discussion past the pilot stage, because once the program is big, there are so many technicalities in programs, and sometimes it becomes very difficult to understand certain logistics within the program. However, under the Inua Jamii brand, my brother will want to respond briefly of why do we get, why do we don't get. It might be a myth, it might be a theory. Maybe my brother would want to respond on that. Thank you.
But ideally you're saying that even with this pilot phase, whatever amount is being given to these vulnerable persons, the children and their caregivers, that you are sure it actually gets to the various households.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day.
That is for sure.
All right, I can see, John agreeing fully on that indeed.
I do agree. I totally agree. Then for the Inua Jamii cash transfer, I would say that this year has been unique. Because in the original design of the program, the payments are meant to be timely and predictable. Timely and predictable. But this year, we have not been timely, we have not been predictable. And the reasons...
So that's a shortfall on your side?
Yeah, on our system-wise. Okay. The reason why is that we had a contract for paying of the beneficiaries which expired last financial year. That time we were using the 4 banks. And then from July, our financial year starts in July. From July this financial year, we did not have a contract for paying of the beneficiaries. So we started the process on now the tendering for the new contract. And the contract was signed in 18th of October 2021. And as a result, therefore, the money for the payment of the beneficiaries was delayed. As a result, therefore, we were able now to pay the months for July, August, September, October. We paid it in lump sum. That was 8,000, and we were able to pay that money in December last year. And then, because after now that transition now from the old contract to the new contract with these new banks, beneficiaries have to open bank account. They also had to change maybe from the old account maybe to you are in equity, maybe you want to go to KCB. To KCB you also had to transit. So that was also taking long.
So there's a bit of technicality here and there.
And then now for the payment for now November, December, January, February, we were also able to pay that money in the month of October. As we are talking now, we have already prepared the payroll. We finished it last week for the money for the March, April, May, June. And we will be able to pay by end of this week or early next month, we will pay now another 8,000. Meaning that for the whole of this financial year, once we pay that last batch, we'll have paid the 24,000 for the beneficiaries. So even if the money is delayed, we ensure that by the time we are closing the financial year, they get all the year entitlement.
Well said. At least now you've dispelled the myths and misconception. And I'll give you the last word, Peter. As stakeholders, 6 months down in this pilot phase, it's going to be complete by December. That's like around the next 5 or 6 months. What are you envisioning, or what will be your recommendations even so far?
Thank you. I want to believe that programs come to give a new dimension in life. And all the programs that we've started, we've never failed. Even though failure is part of our life, but we've never failed. I want to envisage that in the next 6 months, as we close the program, we'll then transit to even a bigger program. That notwithstanding, and I want to believe this, that the government has done its best. It has absolutely done its best, and we are happy working for the government that it has done its best. However, then, we hope that, and this question should be asked to our good friends who are coming in, and to be in 2 directions. Number one, there will be the demand side, that is the amount of money that's available for social protection intervention programs, and of course, looking at the supply side, which is the number of people who are vulnerable and in need of social protection interventions. And this, you might want to ask them as colleagues when you're having your debates. What are the plans in place for the social protection fraternity, so that we are able to basically understand that, yes, this is the direction we are taking. But ideally, in Kenya, the best way to go is social protection, so that it can cushion the vulnerable against shocks and, of course, put more money in the hands of the vulnerable people.
All right, well said. And a good place to end it. Asante sana for coming, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I've been speaking to John Gashigi to my immediate right, who is the director, Directorate of Social Assistance. Right next to him is Peter Ombasa, Assistant Director, Children's Services, of course, talking to us about the Universal Children Benefit Program and what the state is doing in assisting the most vulnerable children in our society. Good place to end this conversation, and ultimately, good morning, Kenya. I'm Doreen Arange Okello. On behalf of the entire team, asante sana. Do this again tomorrow. Have a good Monday morning.
Intuition. I knew that I shouldn't have left her alone with Adrian over in that event. No!
Honestly, I'm not here because Cello let me know about your situation, but because Paulina's daughter has been born.
What?
I can't believe you're doing this to me, Jaime. Please, I beg you, we're just starting and you're the expert here.
It's not actually because of you, but because of me.